Hello, everyone. Welcome to Random Encounter 285 or 285. This is the end of 2023. It's been a remarkable year for games. Your mileage may vary elsewhere, but in the video game, like for games coming out, actually, even your mileage may vary even in the game industry. But for what we got to play this year, it was crazy good. It was so amazing. We actually did an episode of Retro Encounter on that very topic, which I think is coming out on Thursday. So pay attention for that. But in the meantime, we're doing the kind of the sister show of the looking back at 2023. And today we're going to be looking forward to 2024. We do this every single year. It's one of our favorite episodes because, I mean, we get to talk about what's coming up, what really excites us. And it kind of pairs with our most anticipated games of 2024 feature, which the entire site contributes to. Everyone comes in and they pick games and they write a little blurb about, why they're excited about this game. What is this game? It's 30 games this year, so it's a pretty big list, and we're going to be trying to get through all of it. And plus, here and there, we might mention a few games that are coming out that aren't on this list because they may or may not be RPGs or adventure games. Who knows? But today, joining me on the show is the features manager and just a genuinely great guy, Zach.
Hello. I don't know about the last part, but I am the first part.
Yep. And we have another great guy here, Josh.
Hey.
And the best guy, Hilary.
Yeah. I'm a forward-thinking individual, and I'm excited to talk about our roster of games.
How am I gonna top that one? Yeah. Anyway, I'm Mike. I'm here too.
Mike, yeah, you're here.
Yeah.
No, Mike, you are. I'll tell you what Mike is. Mike is the guy. Mike is the guy because the amount of work that Mike has done this year for RPGFan is crazy. And we're actually going to be talking a little bit about that at the very end of the episode because there has been a big project that's gotten released for RPGFan that we're ridiculously excited about. But you want to know what? We're not really going to, talk about anything else or have a preamble or anything. We have too damn much to get through. So why don't we just dive straight in? So this is the 30 most anticipated games of 2024 for RPGs and adventure games and visual novels and things like that. And we're going to be starting it up with, I think it's in alphabetical order. Will it be in alphabetical order when it gets posted? I think so.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start up with Another Code Recollection. So interesting thing about Another Code Recollection is it's actually, it's a remake of one game that we got and one game that we didn't. So it's a remake of Trace Memory and Another Code R, A Journey into Lost Memories. Now, these were DS games. We only got one of them. It was a fairly early DS game, I think, and it was a great adventure game. But since then, it's really kind of been in limbo. We haven't heard anything about this series, and unexpectedly, we are getting remakes of both games. So that's pretty cool. Geo wrote the write-up, and Geo was super excited about it. Is anyone else excited about Another Code Recollection?
Absolutely. Trace Memory is one of my favorite DS games.
Ooh.
I replay it pretty often. I played through it last year, convinced a friend to play it this year, had some friends buy me the sequel, and then they announced this remake like a week later. So I was one of the 5 people that was just blown away when they announced this.
What is going on?
I was with you, although I haven't played it. I own it. I have the DS one, and I guess it, at least visually and like the concept, left an impression on me because or maybe I just have a good memory about certain game things because when that came up on the direct, I was like, this is Trace Memory. I don't know why it's something I recognize having never played it, but I was really excited. So I think this is finally the time for me to play the game.
I have it in the sense that it was on my, it's horrible to admit, it was on my R4 flashcard for a long time and I never ended up playing it, which I feel bad about. Not just because I, had it on the flashcard, but also because it's apparently a fantastic visual novel adventure game and I just kind of missed it.
You feel bad that you didn't play an illegal copy of it, is what you're saying.
I suppose when you put it like that, I'm actually a hero.
Yeah.
Yeah. The game looks really, really cool. And it's one of the neatest things I find about these remakes, and we've been getting a lot of remakes and collections, obviously Collection of Mana, for example, is you get a lot of bang for your buck out of these things because they're compilations of games. And in the sense of this, you're getting two fairly substantial adventure games for the price of one, and it should have some modern bells and whistles. That's a real good value for your money.
Yeah, like these look like they're complete from the ground up remakes too. Like it's not just a HD filtered up res or something. It's completely different game, different camera angles. The puzzles in the trailer by themselves look like the puzzles have changed. So it looks like they're just retelling the story. And I assume some of the puzzles that are, I'll use the word iconic for this niche game, but the iconic puzzles I suspect will still be there, but the rest of it looks very different. So I'm excited to just revisit the story.
Yeah, it's something that is on our radar. I mean, it's our first game, obviously, and it's certainly something that we are definitely going to be covering, and it's coming out next month, I believe.
Yep.
Okay, well, that's an adventure game, but let's move on to something a little bit more dead smack in the middle of, it's an RPG, and that is Avowed. I did the write-up for this one, and what I started with, when folks think of the best Fallout game, it usually isn't the name Bethesda that comes to mind, and that's because Obsidian Entertainment, they were the developers of Fallout New Vegas, which is generally considered to be the best Fallout game, for, in my opinion, all of the right reasons. And Obsidian since then has started turning out a lot of their own first-party games, including Tyranny, Pillars of Eternity, and The Outer Worlds. But now they are releasing I suppose you could say it's their answer to Elder Scrolls. It's called Avowed, and it's going to be an RPG, first-person fantasy, and it looks very, very interesting. Like unlike Skyrim, it's not going to be completely open world. It's going to be much more like The Outer Worlds, in which we're going to have a series of expansive areas to explore. So like mini open worlds. And it looks like magic is a big thing here. It's going to have a lot of character customization, hopefully some great relationships with companions. I mean, Avowed looks really, really good. I love the footage that we've seen so far. It has a lot to live up to, with Baldur's Gate 3 getting released this year, which has really changed the game in terms of, I think, what a lot of gamers expect from fantasy RPGs. So we'll see. But I mean, I really like everything that comes out of Obsidian Entertainment. So I'm super, super excited for this.
I still need to play Pentiment.
I do too. It's installed on my computer right now. I think Amanda and I are going to play it together.
Nice. Is one of the screenshots a cordyceps infected bear? Because that's kind of nightmare fuel for me.
Yeah,
but it looks like a really cool game otherwise.
Yeah, besides the nightmare fuel bear, it does look very cool.
Yeah, there is
more of it soon.
Wow, that is a nightmare fuel bear right there. I'm looking at a screenshot at the moment. Oof, someone needs to exfoliate. Ugh, gross. It looks very pretty. At least I think so.
I agree. I think that these are generally not the type of games that I play, but like I look at the screenshots and I'm like, man, this just looks so cool. I can't believe I'm saying that, but it's the truth. I kind of want to. And Obsidian's name being attached certainly makes me more likely to check it out. So yeah, it looks great.
Yeah. I mean, not that we don't have a whole lot to go on. We have visuals and some other things right now, but like if we're just talking visually, like I would say it's a leap above Outer Worlds too. Like it's really impressive. Not that there's anything wrong with how Outer Worlds looked, but
no, it looks like they've upped their game literally.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Another thing that I'm going to be very interested about Avowed is specifically, how can I put this? Something I'm going to be very excited about Avowed is that some news came out a few days ago, actually. Apparently, way back in the day, Obsidian approached Bethesda about doing a spin-off Elder Scrolls game. They were going to, very much in the spirit of Fallout New Vegas, and apparently Bethesda turned them down flat, which is insane.
Wow.
Yeah. God, I would have loved to have played that.
Mm-hmm.
But Obsidian since then has been playing in the realm of fantasy with the Pillars of Eternity series, and also Tyranny, which is a interesting RPG, which is basically it's kind of the aftermath of the villain winning. So you're in like a dystopian, the villain has won fantasy world, and I haven't played a lot of it, but what I have played, you are confronted with a lot of player choice, and most of it's quite disturbing. It reminded me a lot of, there was a comic a few years ago. It was by it's by Mark Waid, It was called Empire, and it was just a phenomenal comic about what would happen if the villain won, and a Doctor Doom-esque supervillain wins and manages to kill all the other superheroes in the world and sets up a dictatorial government with ministers who are the supervillains of this world. And it follows society as a whole and follows the backstabbing dramas that happen between all of these villains who are for the first time in their lives in positions of power that they wanted to be, they wanted to be the leaders, but now they are under this authoritarian Doctor Doom, essentially. It's so good. It's so damn good. And this kind of reminded me a little bit of that.
Tyranny did,
yes. Sorry. Yeah. Tyranny did. It's a comic book called Empire, and I highly recommend it if you are looking for a decent comic to read. Is anyone else here a fan of, I guess, the Outer Worlds or any of their other games?
I like the Outer Worlds. I just haven't played a ton of it yet.
I think there's a lot to improve on the Outer Worlds. I love the Outer Worlds, but I think that it was a first stab at something that I'm hoping that Obsidian is going to be able to master with the Outer Worlds 2, which we are definitely not getting next year.
Yeah, it's funny because I can definitely see that, but at the same time, there are a lot of components that I look for that are hard to nail and get right, that they really got, like the dialogue and some of the, plot threads with the companions and just kind of the feel of the world. They got that sort of like Serenity-ish vibe right in a way I think a lot of other like sci-fi games don't.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I guess sci-fi frontier, whatever you want to call that subgenre.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're based only on that. I know that they're good at world building. How many times, Jono, while you were playing that, did you message me and be like, "Hey, you like Firefly? Play this."
Oh my god! If I recall correctly, what I said in the review was this game. It feels like they produced a full quarter of the game while having the license for Firefly, and then it got pulled out from under them, and they were like, "Well, we just have to make it our own," and then they just kind of did a thinly veiled version of Firefly. Like it's so goddamn close. Like the ship, the Unreliable, looks real close to Serenity. You have a quirky, absolutely like incredibly lovable chief engineer. You have random guitar music everywhere. It plays like Firefly, which is not a bad thing. I think a Firefly RPG would be great, but we kind of already have one, and it's called The Outer Worlds.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on now, we are going into, a lot of people said that The Outer Worlds was essentially Fallout. It was their version of Fallout. And for our next game, it's going to be called Clockwork Revolution, and a lot of people are saying it looks like the developer's answer to BioShock, specifically BioShock Infinite. So Clockwork Revolution takes place. It's a first-person RPG. Takes place in a vaguely steampunky world, lots of gears and lots of steam, and it looks like BioShock Infinite, which is not the worst thing in the world because BioShock Infinite. You can say a lot about BioShock Infinite, and many have, but one thing that has aged incredibly well is the overall design and art style of the game. The world created in that game is unbelievably gorgeous. And it's one that I think that a lot of developers have been trying to evoke since without a whole lot of success. But this one, I think, is coming closer than most.
Yeah, I think so too. I forgot which game show or whatever that this was like shown off in, but I was really impressed when they debuted it.
Like a lot of people are saying it's a mix between like Fallout and BioShock. And I have no problem with that idea at all. The problem I have is I think people underestimate just how goddamn hard it is to make a Fallout game or to make a good BioShock game, in the sense that there really has only been one extraordinary BioShock game and two that were okay, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Has anyone played BioShock besides me? I'm hoping
I
people
played
have.
The original BioShock. I've never played Infinite. But I it's not for lack of liking it. I really enjoyed it. So like, I think that I like it. It almost looks like it's almost like a theme park look to it to some degree too, to me, like as I'm looking at some of these screenshots. And it's got like a slightly creepy, steampunk vibe to me. And yeah, I really enjoyed the storytelling in BioShock. And so if it can even come close to that, I will be excited to play it.
Yeah, I'm looking at some screenshots here too, and one of the characters, here, he has like a, let me see, I'm trying to describe him. It looks like he has incredible facial hair that is like two waves, two scoops coming out of his face, and he has kind of.
I was trying to figure out how to describe that exact thing when I started talking, so I appreciate that. That's very good.
He kind of reminds me of Count Olaf from A Series of Unfortunate Events.
Oh my god! Yes,
like he kind of looks like Jim Carrey is playing him.
Well, we can hope, right?
I would love for Jim Carrey to show up in a video game in the same style as like Keanu Reeves in Cyberpunk 2077. That would be
incredible.
Yeah, right.
I would love that. That would be great.
This is one of those games where like I'm unfortunately not an expert on the developer, but I mean, I've heard good things about Wasteland and Torment and several other of their games. So, I mean, it's coming from a good place, I think. So I'm hopeful for it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Wasteland 2 and Wasteland 3 are both spiritual successors to, well, I guess, no, actually they're direct sequels to a Western RPG called Wasteland, which was Fallout is a spiritual successor of Wasteland. And then Wasteland 2 kind of picked up on that. In a weird way, Wasteland 2 is a spiritual successor of Fallout, the original Fallout, and Fallout 2. So it's been an interesting, I played some of Wasteland 2, and it's a real good RPG. Especially if you like Fallout, and especially if you like the original Fallout and Fallout 2, and you miss the turn-based mechanics. It's a game that you probably would really, really like. So them working on this, that gives me a little bit of hope. I'm going to be honest. I didn't realize it was them. It was Inzili?
In Exile.
Is that how you pronounce it? Exile? In Exile? Oh, that would make Inzili doesn't make any sense. In Exile makes a lot of sense. In Exile Entertainment, I didn't know that they were responsible for this. So that makes me more excited about this. Cool.
I don't think I picked up on that when it was announced, but yeah, I noticed now.
Yeah. Well, anyway, let's move on to something that I think that every single person at RPGFan is super excited about, and that is the Dragon Quest III HD 2D remake. So it's been almost 3 years since we got this announcement, and since then we have heard almost nothing about it.
Nothing.
Nothing at all.
It's actually optimistic that it's even on this list. So
I was going to say exactly those words, Zach.
Like I didn't realize it had been 3 years.
No, we're willing it to happen next year. We have no real indication that it's going to, but except that it's been 3 years. Like I'm sure they're making progress.
Wait, can we use our retro powers for this one?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I don't have those. We'd have to have Solosi here. I mean, honestly, you're probably right. I mean, although I do think it actually has, odds are, based on previous years, that Dragon Quest III HD 2D remake has a better chance of coming out next year than Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. So
that's fair. Yeah.
We'll get to that in a few minutes. It's fascinating this is taking so long because I don't want to be dismissive, but it's Dragon Quest III. There's not a ton there. Even like the art style, I understand they're trying to go for the HD 2D perspective, but it doesn't look like they've changed the real design or graphic style of the game. It looks like they're really trying to be true to what originally was there. It doesn't seem like they're adding story to it.
It is interesting because like it's really easy to look at this, the HD 2D style and be like, well, that seems like it should be. I mean, I'm sure it is like a more cost-effective way to do a remake than something like Final Fantasy VII. But when you look at like how this was announced 3 years ago, and then you look at Final Fantasy VII Remake, even though it seemed like it took forever to happen, there was 5 years between it being announced and released. And I'm like, this has been 3 years. I don't know. It's one of those things where you just think like, well, if they're going this route, you wouldn't think it would take a super long time. Because also you'd think they would want to do others in the series too.
Yeah, it's been 2.5 years since it was announced. Presumably they wouldn't have announced it until it was well into development, at least a year. So that's 3.5 years, so approaching 4 years. We haven't heard anything about it, so chances are it's going to be an additional couple of months before we hear anything to begin with. So bare minimum 4 years of development time for a HD 2D remake of Dragon Quest III, which is, and I know it has a lot of fans, and I'm one of them, but it is not the most complex game in the entire world.
Yeah, it surprises me.
I was going to say, I sort of wonder if this is the kind of game that a big publisher like Square Enix would just finish and hold on to for an empty slot in the schedule. Like, I feel like they've had a busy couple years. And
I can see it.
I think, Josh, I think you may have hit the nail on the head. I bet this is sitting in a drawer somewhere.
Need to wait for Rebirth and Dawn Trail to drop, and then maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe they're like learning something from the last couple of years where they released like a dozen games in the fall, all like back to back. Maybe they're like, wait, that's not a good idea. People can't buy them all.
Or from their, previous track record with remakes.
Yeah. It's like, space them out a little better.
Yeah, Square Enix is more so than just about any other developer. They just puzzle the crap out of me nowadays. I don't know what they are anymore. I don't think they know what they are anymore. They have hits occasionally. I mean, Foam Stars is clearly going to be the sleeper hit of 2024.
That was definitely the toughest cut from this list. Let's be honest.
I'm furious that you cut it from the list, Zach.
I cut it from the list. Don't blame Zach.
Mr. Abusing his power coming in here and removing clearly the best game.
It wouldn't be fair to the other 29 games to include Foam Stars.
It was like a semi-collaborative effort, but like when I came back to it, Mike had already eliminated it. So,
boo hiss, boo. Well, when eventually Dragon Quest III HD 2D remake comes out, I suspect that we are going to be very enthusiastically receiving it because it's a classic Dragon Quest game with a very, very fancy, beautiful, fresh coat of paint. And I think that if it does well, hopefully that means 4, 5, and 6 as well. I would like that because I've never liked... Okay, I actually do believe that 4, 5, and 6 for the DS were some of the best remakes ever made, but I've never liked the camera rotating perspective in Dragon Quest games and in modern retro Dragon Quest games. I've never liked it. I don't know why. It just never really clicked with me. So I would love to see 4, 5, and 6 in this style with a fixed camera.
I would drop my entire life for a version of 5 looks like this.
I'm a little surprised I didn't go with 5 to begin with, to be honest.
I mean, there's already been like a PS2, I think, version of it. So that maybe makes sense, but yeah.
Yeah, 3 I don't think has been remade since the Game Boy Color.
I mean, technically there's a mobile version that is available on the Switch, but don't play it.
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting time when it comes out, and to see, hopefully it's worth the wait. I mean, it seems like they're doing a pretty straightforward, straight shot remake with no extra content, or if there is extra content, it'll be like bonus content. It doesn't seem like they're deviating from the game at all or expanding it in a la Final Fantasy VII. So, I mean, we'll see.
They could. I mean, do we know?
I'm assuming based on the screenshots. We don't know. You're right. And that would be the only reason I could possibly think why it would take this long, aside from it being in a drawer somewhere. Let's move on to another Dragon game now. One that was, I think, equally unexpected to the announcement of Dragon Quest III, although happened a lot sooner, and that is Dragon Dogma 2. So Dragon's Dogma came out in, 11 years ago. It came out 11 years ago, and since then we have gotten very, very little. And finally, Capcom announced it, and we're getting it pretty early next year, as a matter of fact. I did not play Dragon Dogma. I completely missed it because this is a generation of game. It's from a gaming generation that I just missed. But when it was announced, wow, people were excited.
Yeah, I was surprised. I mean, maybe it's just, I don't recall the reception to the first game being that overly positive, but I feel like it's one of those games that maybe people have grown to like more over the years. Or maybe when they like kind of whatever Dark Arisen was, not a remake, but they kind of like added and upgraded and expanded the game. But so maybe it just got better later. But I just remember the original impression was like, fine. So it's interesting seeing so many people so excited about this. I'm happy about it. I'm glad they are.
A lot of people compare the combat in Dragon's Dogma to Final Fantasy 16, and I actually think it has the same combat designer, if I'm not mistaken. So that makes me like more interested in playing it, but then I like read so much more about the jank of it. I'm like, maybe not yet. So yeah, I mean, I think it's awesome that they're taking a game that it seems like had a lot of potential, and they've tried to like put coats of paint on and coats of paint on, and maybe they're going to take this and make it into something great. So I think that the people who are excited about it, even people who like played it and were like, yeah, this has some potential, maybe they think that it can see that potential.
Oh, woof. Kyle Miller gave it a 68 from us.
See, I mean, that's what I remember back then. So
that was my general impression too. Is it seems like just in recent years, I hear more people saying, "Oh no, this game was really great," and maybe just wasn't appreciated when it came out.
I have no memory at all of this game coming out at all, which could be an indication of just how, I don't know, it just didn't seem like a big RPG to me. But I guess that people are really excited about this sequel. And it looks good. I'm not going to lie. It looks real good.
It does, yeah.
That's kind of exciting. It's open world. It's going to be, it's an action RPG, so a lot of combat in that sense. Zach, you may get some scratch that Final Fantasy 16 itch.
I'm down for that. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Well, moving on now, we have Dungeons of Hinterberg. I got to be honest, I know next to nothing about this game. I've looked at screenshots of it. It seems to be Zelda inspired. It's obviously very, very pretty. I mean, Zelda inspires thoughts in me that we should ask Josh.
I was waiting for it. This is the first time I've ever heard of this game or was looking at the screenshots at all. But yeah, I'm going to keep it on my list now because I'm kind of interested. It does. It looks like a little 3D Zelda-like game, and you don't actually get very many 3D Zelda-likes.
It's so much easier to make a 2D Zelda-like.
Right.
And it's got some like kind of modern elements. Like, is that a gondola? And like the little town looks cute, but kind of like, actually, honestly, kind of like one of the ski towns in Colorado.
Yep.
I was going to say, the entire game looks like it takes place in the mountains.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it may. Well, I guess it doesn't really take place in modern day based on the pictures. It's very modern fantasy, I'll call it. But yeah, it's very interesting, and like even having only known about it now for 5 minutes, I am pretty interested, and I'm gonna keep my eye on it.
It uses cell shaded graphics it's difficult to call cell shaded graphics realistic, but in a way that's more realistic than Wind Waker anyway.
Yeah,
the proportions of the characters
the proportions are correct.
Yeah. But I like the idea of the cell shaded and like also some like comic book style, like print style shading. There's like halftones and lines, and it's a really, really interesting look.
Yeah, and it looks cohesive.
Yeah.
And I think the Steam page says explore the Alps.
Yeah,
so
place
that gives me the idea.
The Austrian Alps.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, the Colorado ski towns want to be that, so.
Little known fact, Austria is actually cell shaded.
Oh, yep. Wow.
Whenever you go that's the thing everyone says.
I mean, it is a beautiful country. Let's be honest. If you've ever been there, it's amazing.
I have not.
It's incredible.
But honestly, if I go now and it's not cell shaded, I will be disappointed.
I think it's the most beautiful place in the world, so you'll enjoy.
Okay, moving on now. There is no way to describe the amount of anticipation and joy that comes from the first line of Zach's. Zach, you just take this one. Just go.
Yeah.
You did Chronicle 100 Heroes. I mean, like I have spoken so many times about this game that I actually feel like I am not the right person to take it, because like I don't have anything new to say about it. Like I've said it so many times. Like a Yuden Chronicle 100 Heroes, it's coming in April. It got delayed a couple of times. I when the Kickstarter was announced, it was actually relatively early in my time at RPGFan, but people still knew me well enough to know like just how excited I would be about this game, and everything I've seen about it looks incredible. They just released like a gameplay like overview trailer a couple of days ago, and like they've included war battles just like they did in Suikoden. The combat looks like it's doing some really interesting things with like hiding behind things. So like the area itself is going to be something you have to play around with, but also like those dual techs type of ideas are still there. And it's everything I have seen about it. Every time I see a new preview, every time I see something new, I'm actually afraid that my hype level is too high for Yuden Chronicle and that I'm going to be disappointed because there's no way it can match that hype level. It's just like actually impossible. But I am insanely excited for this game, and yeah, that's what I have to say about it.
I mean, it sounds a little bit like you're just hedging your bets to prevent crushing disappointment. I got to be honest. I think it looks fantastic.
Oh, it does.
It really
looks so
does.
good.
Yeah.
Every
It's looked
single
fantastic
thing
since
I
the
see,
first trailer.
yeah, agreed. And it just like keeps building from there. Like there's nothing about it where I'm like, I feel like I don't like the art style, or like you could do this better. Like, no, that looks great. That looks great. That looks great. And yeah, I don't think I can take a week off of work, but I will.
It looks like we're getting a sequel to Suikoden 2. That's
Right.
what it looks like.
Mm-hmm. It's really impressive that it has looked impressive from day one, because like it's pretty easy to like compare this to like the campaign and everything about Bloodstained. It's another Konami property and another former Konami creator, and I mean I really like Bloodstained. I
do too.
Looking back at the Kickstarter, it was more like like conceptually this sounds good, and because I don't remember if they showed much game, or if they did, it was very early and it looked all right. And by the end, the final game looked way better than what it used to. But like the fact that this game looks as promising and as impressive from day one, like I can't even, after how many years now, like it's just going to be, I think,
Yeah, that
great.
sort of justifies some hype levels.
Yeah,
I think so too.
I mean, that original campaign video, I still remember watching.
Yeah.
When they're going around like recruiting everyone. I'm like, that was so much fun. Like,
that's so cute.
The idea that they all get to work together again is just really, really cool.
It's, I don't know, the entire idea behind crowdfunding for video games and things, it really does have a let's get the gang back together. And sometimes you get a hit. Sometimes you capture that magic. And sometimes it feels like the magic isn't quite there anymore, which is a shame. But in this particular case, yeah, I think it looks real good.
Yeah,
I'm really, really hoping for. I'm hoping for Suikoden 3, not Suikoden 3, but like I'm hoping for Suikoden 3 because its graphic style is stunning. It pulls a lot from the Suikoden graphic style, but also from HD 2D with the depth and everything. It looks modern. It looks great.
You know, in Rising, which is a prequel to it, was like sort of up and down in terms of the reception. I think most people were just kind of meh on it. Like I thought it was fine. I liked it more than most, which I'm excited about as well. But I also think that regardless of whether you were like, you liked it, you didn't like it, whatever, like I think it laid the groundwork for what is potentially a really interesting world, like a Suikoden, like really interesting world. And I think that one of the things that is challenging for this series to live up to is like Suikoden is such a lived in whole world that we only got maybe a third of what we could have gotten in terms of like the whole scope of all the great runes and all that stuff. Whereas here, like they're building from the ground up. And I think that you can see them learning from that in ways that I think are really compelling. And, you know, Moriyama's like worked on a lot of games since then. And none of them have been great. Like I thought the Alliance Alive was like pretty good, I guess. But here it seems like he's just like, he knows what he wants to do. He's going to do it and he understands how to do it right. And again, I feel like I'm overhyping it, but like I'm very excited.
I don't think you're overhyping it. I think that the level of hype is exactly where it should be for this game. I think for fans of, you know, the PSX era, this is going to be something special. Hopefully, fingers crossed. We're hoping for something a little closer to Bloodstained than Mighty Number 9.
Oh, geez. Oh, I actually forgot about that one. Yeah.
I think the developers of this game are a little bit. I trust them more.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Anyway, we're moving on now to another game that has a lot of hype, and it's a piece of DLC actually, and this is going to be. I think it's going to be interesting to see what reception this DLC gets next year, because if it is of the scale that I think some people are suspecting, it might be this DLC might be a contender for Game of the Year next year. Yeah. And this is Elden Ring: Shadows of the Erdtree. So Elden Ring, I mean, what else can you say about Elden Ring? You don't really need to say anything about Elden Ring. It's Elden Ring. But since then, fans have been pretty desperate for more lore, more exploration, more bosses that make you want to hurt yourself. And it looks like this game is this DLC is going to be delivering all of that in spades. Yeah, I have not played Elden Ring because Souls likes scare me. Zach, I know that you have recently got into some.
I mean, I am probably within 10 hours of clearing Elden Ring as of today. So I can speak to this a little bit because I've played, as in the last 2 months, I've played Bloodborne, Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2, Sekiro, Demon Souls, and now I'm on Elden Ring. Yeah, it's not healthy.
Wow, you are
at
literally
all.
a glutton for punishment.
Yeah, it's not good. I'm very close to the end. I haven't hit the legendary bosses of Elden Ring yet, but the thing that excites me about it, first of all, is that we know based on the key art that it's going to focus on a character who we know a lot about, and who's mentioned a lot as a critical character. I'm guessing they will end up being the super uber final boss. And if you don't the way Soulsborne DLCs usually work is that they will usually up the challenge. And to be honest, if you play Elden Ring the way that I want to play it, Elden Ring is already probably the hardest Soulsborne game. And so I'm curious to see what they're going to do, but also thinking about the concept of these open spaces and how much of an open space are they going to give in this DLC? How much space are they going to give you to work in? Because hypothetically, you could have spent 30 hours. And those of you who've played new Zelda games understand this. I could have spent 30 hours in the first zone without even getting to the first major boss. And I don't know if they're going to give us 2 zones. Are they going to give us 1? They've worked on this for a lot longer than they usually work on the DLCs, but I will say that Soulsborne DLC is usually better than the base game. Actually, that's true in all the cases. In Bloodborne, it's better. In Dark Souls 3, it's better. In Dark Souls 1, it's better. There wasn't any for Sekiro or Demon Souls, but I'm very excited to play it, but I also am scared that the aggression level in Elden Ring bosses is already so high. It's absurdly high that I don't know how much more challenging they can make it at this point. So we'll see, but I'm very excited for it. I will certainly be playing it when it comes out. But yeah, it looks amazing from the very limited information that we have, but that's what Soulsborne does. They give you no information, even in the game.
I don't think that people want information. I think that at the moment, people just kind of want to anticipate, and boy, are they anticipating.
Yeah, I certainly am.
Has anyone else played Elden Ring?
I put about 60 hours into Elden Ring and then stopped playing for no reason. Just one of those games I never got back to finishing.
The burnout on that game is real. It's a lot, man.
I've thought about going back multiple times, and it just hadn't got there. And then a Zelda game came out.
Yeah. If you mix the open world elements of something like a Zelda, and it feels like that in a lot of ways, with just the challenge of a Soulsborne game, and it eventually it wears on you. I'm 70 hours in, and I know sort of what I need to do to finish, and I'm excited to finish. So, but I'm still excited for the DLC.
I really would like to explore that open world, but it is the bosses that make me go, do I really want to do this?
It's not the one I would start with if you wanted to try a Soulsborne game. Bloodborne's the right place to start.
It is the one I started with. I really ended up liking it a lot. Just running around the world, great time.
I know it's not a Souls-like, but it was inspired by a Souls-like. Salt and Sanctuary was my introduction to the genre, and I know it's 2D, but I hated it. God, I hated it. That was a hard podcast to do with Solosi because everyone else on it kind of liked it, and I was like, I hated it so much. So I've always been reluctant to try a Souls-like just in case I try one, and I'm like, nope. But I am very excited to see the reception that it gets as a fan of the industry and observing things like this. It has given me tremendous pleasure to watch just how many people adore Elden Ring and how it lived up to the hype in a way that a lot of games don't. So I really, really hope that the DLC does too.
Yeah, you've got to have some appreciation for that.
Oh yeah.
That was one I think they announced way too early.
Yes.
It was just oh, it's coming one day, and then it suddenly just released. But yeah, I'm glad too, because not knowing anything about that game for years was boy, that's that better be good, and it was.
It's interesting. There's got to be. I'd be very curious to get a bird's eye view into the logic of game announcements and just how far ahead you should announce them and what it gets you. Versus there's a certain point where, you want to build anticipation for something, but there comes a certain point where that anticipation is replaced by this is never coming out. And I think you want to try to avoid that while maximizing the anticipation. And I think that some people miss the mark.
Right. And there's obviously probably not a specific formula, but there's so much variation.
Yeah.
That
Well, let's move on now to a game that, to be honest, I will be surprised if it comes out in 2024. I think this is going to be one of those aspirational games in this list. And that is Fable 2024. So this is the first new entry in the Fable series in a long, long time. Looks like it's going to be a bit of a reboot rather than maybe the next entry. Fable is a game that I missed. I have never played a Fable game. However, I do know that it is beloved by a good many people, and it's very, how can I put this? The series is very witty. It relies on a lot of wit to carry it forward. So it looks like, based on the trailer, that this game may have captured that wit. It'll be interesting to see how if they manage to capture the magic of the gameplay.
Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic about this one.
Mm-hmm.
Like I bought an Xbox 360 to play Fable 2. Probably the only time I ever bought hardware specifically to play one game that wasn't Zelda. But I absolutely adore the way the combat, where you can just rapidly go from sword to gun to magic, just in one scenario. Absolutely love it. I was playing Fable 2 again earlier this year, and I think it aged incredibly well. I would be surprised if the new Fable game plays like the old ones. It might end up feeling
gameplay yet.
Yeah, we haven't really seen gameplay. I would be surprised if it feels at all like a now 20-year-old game. So I'm cautiously optimistic. I just got to see some more. I'm a little worried it's going to be a little bit too Elder Scrolls for me. I'm not really an Elder Scrolls person, but we'll see. I'm glad the series is alive again, at least.
Mm-hmm. Has anyone else played Fables and is excited for this?
I have not.
Yeah.
It's actually, it's kind of interesting. I know we're just going through this list alphabetically, but it is another thing that kind of falls into what we just talked about, where, this was announced in, I think, 2020. I only know that because originally on the site, we called this like Fable 2021. And now we're just every year we just keep adding a number to it, because it's like, it was supposed to come out, and we thought it might come out in 2021. And we just haven't heard much since then. It's been another one, like, it's just been kind of lingering, which of course leads to these exact conversations. We're like, it's a new developer. How is it going to be? We don't know. They're not saying a lot about it. So it's interesting.
I mean, to be fair, this was the first year that we actually got, well, it's not exactly game footage. It's theoretically in-game footage, but it's
true.
We got the trailer. So, maybe we'll get something pretty soon. That would be nice. I think some people would be excited about that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's crazy to say it comes out next year, but they did announce it way too soon. Like way too soon. And that's the thing, is like, we know it's been in development for like 5 years probably. So I think it's a good bet for next year, but they need to stop.
I do like, I want to highlight a little bit quickly, like what Jimmy said in his write-up for this, that it's developed by this studio who did Forza Horizon, which is not, if you just heard that, you're like, wow, that's a really odd choice for an RPG. But he also points out that, Guerrilla Games, before Horizon came out, was just known for Killzone, and we would have thought the same thing then. Like, what? It's like, really? They're going to do an RPG, huh? Let's see how that turns out. So, like, you really never know. So I think
you're right. You don't.
I'm really interested in seeing how that turns out.
Well, let's move on now to, I guess, technically a sequel to a Nintendo 3DS game called Fantasy Life. So this is, here's an interesting question. How do you pronounce this? Is it Fantasy Life I, the girl who steals time? Fantasy Life lowercase Roman numeral 1, the girl who steals time?
I'm going to say I. It's Fantasy Life Internet. No, I don't know. I don't know what the I is for.
Wouldn't that be I Fantasy Life?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if they want to evoke that time period, that's how they should do it. They should put an I in front of it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is technically a sequel to Fantasy Life for the Nintendo 3DS, which is a life sim RPG style game, and one that I know nothing about, literally nothing. So I know that Sam is pretty excited about it. Has anyone played Fantasy Life?
No, that's one of those ones I missed. Wow, we didn't even review it. So yeah, I can't tell you.
It's something I specifically did not play. Not
this
because
was a choice.
It was a choice because I was worried I would spend too much time with it, kind of game. Like
That's
even
fair.
reading the write up here is like comparing it to FF14, and it's like you get a bunch of classes and you get to master all those classes, and then switch between them all the time. And it's the kind of thing where I play those games and I have to master every single one of the classes. You know, I play FF Tactics and I master the classes, and I just spend 100 hours grinding and never finish the game. So I saw this game and was like, yeah, this is right up my alley. I'm definitely not going to play it.
And it looks like they're adding an aspect to it that would suck in kind of another subset of people who just want like a cozy home, and you can terraform, you have an island, houses, furnishings, all of that stuff. So it's kind of got the double whammy there.
Yeah, it's like, there's a bunch of skills like Final Fantasy 14, and also it's cozy like Animal Crossing. I'm like, oh boy, that's dangerous for me too.
What I'm hearing is this game is trying to steal the thunder from Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, but we'll talk about that in a few minutes.
Oh my god, I just realized how hilarious the subtitle of this game is now.
The Girl Who Steals Time?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's the game that steals time.
Yeah. We just talked about how much of your life this game could suck away. That's hilarious.
It's a warning.
Don't play it.
Well, now I want to.
Well, let's move on now to a game that I think that will be stealing an awful lot of time in 2024, specifically early 2024. I can't believe this is coming out in early 2024. It boggles my mind. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So Final Fantasy VII Remake, in a weird way, feels like it just came out, and it sure didn't. But we're getting the second part of the Final Fantasy VII trilogy, and we've gotten some footage, and we've gotten some music, and we've gotten a theme song, and I don't think that anyone knows what to expect from this game. I think that everyone is holding their breath and thinking, what is going to happen in this story? And we just do not know. Are they going to go for the obvious, or are they going to subvert everything? Regardless of what happens, people are going to be pissed.
That's always true.
Yeah, but that's everything. That's it. That could be a lot of games.
I think they just released something that said like that the main campaign would take like 40 to 60 hours. I think I'm paraphrasing here. And that if you like were completioning, it would be like 100 hours, which means that it is significantly more ambitious than Remake was. Because Remake, even if you like basically like 100%ed it on the first run, probably took you 35 hours, maybe 40 if you struggled. So yeah, I mean, like even as a person who did not love the ending of Remake, which I've said this so many times, I don't even want to say it again. I loved the game itself. Final Fantasy VII Remake was a brilliant game. The combat was amazing. The work they did on the characters was stunning. In particular, like the female members of the cast, Jessie, like, oh my goodness,
Avalanche.
Like yeah, exactly. Like they did so much good work there that like, even if I am not necessarily convinced by the meta narrative elements that they are going for, I'm convinced that they understand that characters are what drives this narrative. And I'm convinced that that will continue. I'm excited to be able to explore some areas and see how they do that. And how they play around with some of the meta narrative things. And maybe I have enough space now to where like I can kind of accept that their vision is not mine. And I think it's going to be fabulous. And I am, if it wasn't for Eiyuden Chronicle, it would be my most anticipated game of the year, despite my issues with the ending. So I'm super excited. I'm super excited for the appearance of Vincent and everything else that this game is going to be. I think it looks fabulous.
I want to go to Cosmo Canyon.
Oh yeah, right? I can't wait.
I know exactly what Mike is the most excited for. Mike is excited for some DLC where you get to power wash a spaceship and a coffin.
Damn it. How did you know I was going to talk about
why didn't we think of that?
Hilary and I were talking on the way. It's like, you know what? This would be a good time for more crossover with Power Wash Simulator. No, I didn't think about the coffin.
We didn't that's so disappointing. That's perfect. Or like just the Shinra build, the library.
Yeah. I mean, look, I won't spend a lot of time on it, but you know, prepping for this podcast, we were like, okay, let's think about what we're excited about. I'm like, well, you know, I'm sure everyone knows by now. like Zach has talked about the ending, how he feels about the ending a lot. I have mentioned way too many times that I've yet to finish Remake and see said ending. But I definitely know how to power wash Midgar. So if they do,
it, honestly,
huh? It does.
Needs it, honestly.
But I'm like, if they do another one for this, I would be all over it. So what do we decide? What do we decide with the 5 stages?
The laboratory,
the observatory, and Cosmo Canyon,
right.
Something in Junon, because like there's enough. Junon can be filthy too. You know, there's enough dirty parts of Junon.
Yeah, maybe like
the Chocobo Farm.
Yes.
Oh God, yes.
And
I mean, that's just gross. But I do not think you'd want to bring a power washer to a Chocobo Farm. That's going to make things worse.
Yeah, that's true. And then I don't know, whatever the 5th one is, whether that's a coffin.
Let's go with the coffin.
But the whole room though, the whole coffin.
Yeah, the whole room.
Yeah.
What's terrible, like genuinely terrible. I feel bad about it. I'm trying to figure out what my holiday game is going to be, and I'm like, on the one hand, I really, really, really want to play Alan Wake 2. And on the other hand, I kind of want to say fuck it and just download Power Wash Simulator.
Do it. It's probably on sale.
It could not, those 2 games could not possibly be any more different.
I know. But only one of them has Back to the Future DLC, Jono.
Sam Lake's a madman. Who knows what he's going to put in the DLC for Alan Wake 2.
Oh, we forgot the 5th one. I came up with what the 5th one is. The 5th one is the altar in the city at the end.
And who gives you?
Yeah. Where Sephiroth would be like, "Hey, I'm going to use this later. Can you clean up this stage for me?"
Well, it'd be really, really dark. It'd be really dark if your job was to clean it up afterwards.
No.
Yes, and this was a misunderstanding the 2 of us had right before coming on the show, because that is what I thought he meant.
No, I meant before getting it ready. Anyway,
just imagine you wheeling it in and be like, Jesus, what happened in here?
Exactly what it looks like. All right. All of that aside, I am very excited for this one. What I have seen and played and know of Remake, like I think it's great. I actually like that they, you got that in depth with everything in Midgar, but the change in setting and seeing what they can do with a big world and like the fields and greenery and like just all the different settings that are in this section of Final Fantasy VII. I cannot wait to see what they do with it beyond what we've seen. But I mean, like it looks fantastic.
I mean, I remember in the original, just after Midgar, feeling this amazing sense of possibility and getting really excited about exploring the world. And I think that's something they could recapture really, really well in Rebirth.
Yeah, and I'm also looking forward to like playing the other characters because I haven't read a lot. I did read a bit of that Game Informer preview the other day, and they talked a bit about. Did they officially say they are pronouncing it Kate Sith? Is that what they're saying?
That's the way I always pronounced it.
Did you read how he plays? Like how like sometimes the he can be separated from the Moogle and there's different moves and it's I don't know. I'm not going to paraphrase.
I heard that he could be separated from the Moogle
and share details wrong, but I'm like I'm really interested to see how that plays. It sounds interesting.
Well, it's not the only Final Fantasy game we're reading next year. We are getting some more Final Fantasy XIV, Dawn Trail, and Mike, I try to avoid talking about Final Fantasy XIV because this is a game that I know that if I ever played, I'd be in so much trouble, and I just don't want to put myself in that position. So why don't you take this one?
I mean, Zach can too. I think we're both going to be talking about this one because
I'm happy to supplement whatever you say.
Well, you did the write-up, so I'm giving it to you.
I did do the write-up. Yeah, I don't want to like duplicate my write-up too much, but one of the things that really gets me about this one is that Endwalker really got to me. I mean that to wrap up a story that they've been telling for like 9 years at the time is a monumental thing. I mean there's no way they should have wrapped it up as well as they did, and like even like small plot threads from like years and years past, like they touched on, and like they did so well at doing that. And I'm impressed. I like that they said, okay, we are actually done with this story now. Because like it's been interesting following that story all this time, but like to say this is done and we're actually starting something new is actually just a concept I'm not used to yet in 14, because everything always continued off. And now it's like, no, we're going to a whole new area. We're starting a new story. I'm really excited about it. Because as much as I liked it, I'm like, I want to see what they do now. Like, I have no idea where they're going with it. It looks great. Actually, we're going to learn more. Oh, geez. When is that live letter? Is that like tomorrow?
Is
Or
there a
not live
live
letter,
letter tomorrow?
the fan fest.
I don't know when the Japanese fan fest is. We'll find out what the caster job is though.
Yeah.
Whatever. Oh man. I actually don't know. That's embarrassing, but I have no idea.
I might
It
be
would make
wrong.
sense.
I looked up FanFest dates the other day and I was like, wow, okay, no, it's January 6th. But it's still sooner than I thought. I had in my head that it was like
that's very soon.
late January, February, but it's like, oh no, it's a few weeks from now.
It's been, what is this, the 10th anniversary?
Yeah, right now it is.
For A Realm Reborn, at least. Yeah.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice.
Yeah,
Seems like lots of people are celebrating anniversaries this month.
Yeah, I mean, I Dawn Trail is, I'll admit, I'm not as excited for it as I was for Endwalker for the reasons that Mike has already described. Like, I was like, oh, I want to see like this story that at the time, like I hadn't actually spent that much time with it come to an end. And like Endwalker is just like, it's just like top tier. It's so good. And it's interesting because, the patches, leading up, because they really finished it like 6.0. So they've been releasing new content over the last year and a half, and it has not been exactly what I expected. It sort of told its own story as well. And I thought it was pretty good, but like not great compared to what Endwalker was, which was just like phenomenal. And so like it makes me a little trepidatious about where they're going to go with it. But like I think that it's going to be cool because they're obviously taking a very different tone here. Like even in the lighter moments of Final Fantasy XIV, it's still pretty dark. Whereas this, like they keep like kind of framing it as like a summer vacation. And while that doesn't necessarily sound like, I don't know, like my thing in a video game, like I'm excited to see what they do with these characters who we've known for so long in this very different setting. And Viper, the new melee class, looks really cool, though they say that it's like technically difficult, which means I absolutely will not be playing it because like, no, thank you, monk player over there, Hilary. So yeah, I'm very excited about it, but I'm less excited than I was for Endwalker, and there are other games I'm actually more excited for, even though Final Fantasy XIV is probably my favorite game. So yeah.
I enjoyed my moment seeing the Scions and the Warrior of Light in a lighter moment on a vacation, eating tacos.
I'm like, what is this? What is this thing?
I don't know. I want some happiness for them, but I completely get what you're saying. There was a big investment with Endwalker.
I mean,
that you can't replicate.
No, but I'm curious when the rug gets pulled out from under you too, because they're like, it's a summer vacation. Anyway, here's this weird, creepy lab and this giant robot, and this giant robot called the Eliminator. I'm like, okay, hang on.
Like the level 95 quest is going to totally change things. I get it, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, I know that many people on this podcast are fans of Final Fantasy XIV, and at least one person is a massive fan of Souls likes, and it seems like Flintlock: The Siege of Dawn is following in the footsteps of, I guess, Lies of P as a second generation Souls like that is taking many of the some of the DNA of Souls and is adding in other aspects and trying something a little bit different. It looks pretty good. Doesn't look like something that's particularly catching my eye in terms of my taste, but it does look pretty great.
Yeah, I mean, like the look of it is great, but I am just so wary of people who, because gosh, Souls-like is like, I'm not even sure what it even means anymore. I'm wary of it. Like I'm curious about Lies of P, but like I read about it, I'm like, well, they just made it like even harder. Like that's not the point, really. It really isn't. So like it looks cool, but like until I hear more, I don't really have much of an opinion about it.
As I understand it, and this is coming from someone who greatly disliked Salt and Sanctuary, the thing about Souls like is they're always hard, but they're very rarely unfair. When you screw up, it's you that screws up. The game doesn't screw you.
That's the phrase people use. There are times that I think it's cheap. I don't want to talk about Blighttown right now, but yeah.
Oh God, that place.
But yeah, I mean that's the idea. But like I don't know. I guess maybe I've heard the phrase for so long, even before I played a Soulsborne game, and now I'm like, well, I think you guys all kind of missed the point.
That's one of the things that came up in our Lies of P review, from what I remember from proofing it, was that it hit the mark in a lot of ways, but one of the ways it didn't was that sort of difficulty curve, justified kind of difficulty. So hopefully, if that's what they're going for with this, they'll get it right.
Yeah, if you're going to make a game that hard, balance becomes absolutely paramount. And if you miss the balance even a little bit, it's not. People are just going to be angry. They're not going to enjoy it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know a lot. You know, I know that this developer did Ashen, which I feel like Ashen was like in development for a very long time, and I kind of missed what the reception actually was when the game came out.
I played it briefly at E3 2019 and I did not enjoy it. So that's what I remember.
Okay. Well, hopefully it's better, a little better than that at least. I don't know. I mean, I like the look of it. I at least have to, I give them credit for not having oh God, I don't want to say not having a typical protagonist because it's a woman of color, but also you don't see that a lot in these games. So, you know, props to that. And I like the, you know, melee and range weapon look, and I don't know, visually and the gameplay, it looks interesting. Just as long as it can differentiate itself and like really be its own thing, I think they could have something with it.
Okay, let's move on now to. Okay, I just gotta. Nothing at RPG is inherently funnier to me than year after year making Des write the blurb for Grand Blue Fantasy Relink.
My favorite part is that I was actually the first one who wrote it up years ago. And that was a long time ago. It was like 2018.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like even if this thing gets released this year, we're still going to have to make Des write a blurb for Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. The most anticipated for 2025.
I love that.
my favorite little Easter egg, and it's completely inspired by your love of seeing Des write about this, Jono, is that the graphic, you know, I have a certain look for certain features on the site every year, and I use the same basic format for most anticipated as I did last year. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to keep Grand Blue Fantasy in here, and it's going to be actually the same artwork in the same position as it was last year. Just as a nod to you.
Oh, God. Well, apparently this damn thing is getting released on February 1st, 2024. I'll believe that when I see it. I firmly expect.
I mean, like, I don't think you announced February 1st, 2024 this year unless you mean it, because that's so stupid.
I know, but wouldn't it be just amazing if a month from now on January 21st, they're like, so listen.
I actually think it would be smart in this case.
I don't think... If this game isn't done by now, it's not going to be done.
I honestly don't know what would be better for them. Like, February 1st means they're going to get it out there before Final Fantasy VII, but also very close to 7. So it's like, I don't know. There were so many like press releases and stuff we got over the fall of people that are like, we don't want our RPG to release in August because of Baldur's Gate. So we're just pushing it out like 4 months because we'll never sell any of these. So like, putting this so close to Final Fantasy VII is a very odd move. So
and the Persona 3 remake.
yeah, that too.
Yep.
So I don't know. I think I feel like the series has enough fans that it would still do fine, but it's still just really packed at the beginning of the year.
I mean, I think it would do well in Japan at least because the mobile game is so huge over there. But here in the West, like I'm just not convinced that it's going to get any sort of numbers if it releases in February.
I think the only people who are really anticipating this game coming out is Des. But no,
I mean,
that's not fair.
I genuinely am as well. Like, it looks really cool.
Yeah, it looks great.
I'm sad that Platinum's not working on it anymore, which that happened years ago now, that Platinum left the development team. But I still think it looks fantastic. And I know the pedigree behind Grand Blue is really strong. And if I don't even play near mobile games, so I'm not playing a mobile game, but
We'll make Sam play it.
Yeah, exactly. But I am still genuinely excited to play it. I just know that if it comes out that day, it won't be for a while.
I mean, who knows? This thing might get released. It might have ringing reviews. It might be the biggest surprise hit of 2024. We just don't know at this point. But I'll tell you something that is going to rack up an awful lot of hours from an awful lot of gamers, even though I would be stunned if it gets a full release in 2024. And that is Hades 2.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's my reaction too. Hades 2 is going to be a test of my resolve not to play early access. Because I used to play early access games. In fact, the review I have of Rogue Legacy 2 on the site is from the early access first release of that. And I had a good time in it. And then I played the final version of it and it was like so much better. But at the same time, I'm like, God, it's Hades though, and I loved Hades, and I really want to play Hades 2, and I want to spend time in this world again, and with this, it has so much fun. But at the same time, I don't want to get. I want to get the final experience. I want to get the intended final experience. But holy crap, it looks great.
Yeah, and I mean that's especially interesting because isn't it the first direct sequel for
Yep.
Supergiant?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah,
It is.
so that's interesting in itself.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty an obvious statement to be like, Hades is like their biggest game yet in terms of success, and like, but yeah, I mean, I really wasn't expecting them to do a sequel because they never have before.
I mean, like Hades was an insane achievement. Like it's the only Supergiant game that I've played to completion. I just recently was actually hanging out with Mike and Hilary when I did this, started playing Bastion.
Yay.
But it's just like so good. Like it's so dense with content and with quality and with different ways of approaching it. Like I got my 10 clears, then I was like, okay, I'm done. But I loved every moment of getting to those 10 clears. And it's the only roguelike I've ever played, and I will be playing this day one because it's just like the level of quality they brought to it was so absurd that I can't even imagine what they'll do with a second shot at it.
I think I'm ready for this one because I was just complaining yesterday about how Saturn/Kronos gets a planet.
This is true.
I've always been a little bit mad about that.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm ready to, face off against him.
How dare he?
How dare you get a planet in our solar system when who did you say? Athena didn't get one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Actually, you're right. That would be a better name for that planet.
I guess it might be. It might also be Minerva, but yes.
Yeah, I guess
Athena would be the better name.
The Greek gods' names are always better, at least in my opinion. I'm curious. Has anyone seen the No Clip documentary about the making of Hades?
Oh, I didn't know they had one.
I want to see it.
Now I want to.
I'll send you the link after. Yeah, No Clip did a 6-part documentary series. Each episode is about 30 to 40 minutes each. I don't think I love game development documentary series, especially when they're like in the room as it's being developed. Yes. It's so interesting. But one of the last parts of it is because they were getting ready for a release, and then obviously COVID hit. So like the 5th episode is just entirely how the quarantine affected Hades development going into the full release of the game, which apparently was real chaotic.
I bet.
Yikes.
But I'm going to watch this at some point. I'm saving it. It seems like a really good cottage movie watch to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that sounds good. Does it have Elijah Wood bringing Rice Krispie treats in though?
Bring that up.
I always have to.
I'm not going to lie. The number one reason why I want to play Psychonauts 2 is so I can watch that documentary. So I can watch the sequel. Yeah, Hades 2 is... there are a lot of games on this list, and a lot of games, period, where I'm nervous or I'm thinking, oh, I hope it's good, or maybe it'll be really, really good. Maybe it'll be a surprise, or maybe it'll be bad. Hades 2 is a game that I am not even remotely nervous about whatsoever. I have full faith that this game is going to kick ass. It's just going to, because it's from Supergiant.
Is 4 for 4. So
yeah.
It's
like, Supergiant doesn't fail.
No.
Like how in the hell how does this company have this good an average? It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they don't miss.
It's great. So I am not worried about this at all. I am going to hold off until the full version is released. I would say probably 2025 if we're going to be completely honest.
I mean, the first one was in early access for at least a year, right?
Yeah, though it would be pretty cool if it came out holiday 2024. That would be a holiday game to remember.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, moving on to a more traditional RPG would be, actually very traditional in terms of what it's doing. Another Trails game, The Legend of Heroes: Trails Through Daybreak. So it's the 11th title in the Trails series, and it's been out for a little while. Like most Legend of Hero games, it takes us a little while to get the damn things. I really, really should start this series.
No, you shouldn't. It's too long.
Okay, yeah, it's too long, but then I look at the title that comes after this one in the list, and I'm like, well, if I said that was an excuse, I'd be a hypocrite.
I actually think that Like a Dragon is actually shorter overall than Trails.
Yeah.
There's a lot to plow through with this series, but I do know the people who play it and the people who love it, oh my God, they love it so much.
That's generally true. I mean, I've played Cold Steel 1 and 2, and I enjoyed them. And then I was like, I got to play Trails in the Sky because everyone's like, you got to play Trails in the Sky before you play 3. And then like, I really don't want to do that. And I've tried it and it's boring. And Alana has played all but one of them. And she didn't love the most recent one, but I am certain that she will still hop on this new one immediately when it comes out. Mm-hmm. So I know that even people who like are sort of like, Trails of Cold Steel 4 was bad, which I think is the general opinion. And Reverie was like pretty good. Like they're still going to continue because like it has such a hold on people. But I actually feel like it's getting to the point with this series, like that if you haven't started it yet, like you're just screwed. Like it's just absurd. Like how much you need. And like I was able to play Trails of Cold Steel 1 and 2 without a whole lot of context. I was fine. But like I started Trails of Cold Steel 3 and I was like, oh, like, who are all these people? I think I'm supposed to know who these people are. And like, oh, it's from the last 5 games you didn't play. Like, okay, I'm done. No, thank you. Like, it's a commitment. I'm not sure that the commitment is 100% worth it. It is like super like anime cliche in my opinion. So like, I am not actually excited about this game, but I'm excited that other people are.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that they're like after the Crossbell games in this one, like they're more or less. Well, we're not totally caught up. I mean, the sequel to this game is going to be out way before we get the first one, but we're more caught up in the West than we have been in the last 3 or 4 years. So I think that's good for the people that enjoy it. And I'm not one of the people who doesn't enjoy it because I just like I can't bring myself to get into it because I know what people say, but it like Zach said, like you're expected to have this kind of knowledge, and I'm like that's a lot. Like, I love the idea of it. I love the idea of the games coming together. Like, I know Scott has talked about some of them. It's like compared them to like, Avengers Endgame. And I'm like, that's great. Like, I'm sure that's incredibly satisfying seeing like all these characters come together from like past games and how everything's connected.
Different like branches of the series.
But we're also talking, if you make that comparison though, you're talking about movies. You're talking about a bunch of experiences that are 2 hours a piece, not a bunch of experiences that are 100 hours a piece.
Yeah,
it's
like, you can watch all of up to Endgame in like a weekend if you really want to.
Right. Yes. Yeah, you can watch every MCU movie. And I don't mean to be a hater, but like this isn't working on that level. Like I'm not even a huge MCU fan, but like
I remember MCU you were slamming the MCU in the 2023 look back episode.
Right. Yeah, and I stand by that. But like, this still isn't of that quality. Like, I don't think it's worth the time investment. So that's my not plug for this series. Even though I liked it well enough. Like, it was fine. But like the end of Trails Cold Steel 2 is actually offensive and stupid. Anyway, that's my take.
I think I don't know. I mean, I guess, like I said, they're obviously made for the fans of the series, and that's good. But it's also kind of weird that they're not making a whole lot of I don't know, like start a new series at some point. I don't know. I think it's just more and more it's become like a growing thing. It's like no one can really get into these because there's not really a lot of good starting points. So I'm like,
there's not a jumping on point.
Yeah, like have this keep going. Like ease works a little better because they're not really connected, or there's some common threads, but like each game is its own story.
There's a reason why in comic books there are every couple of years there's another issue number 1 for a long running series. Yep. There's the sales potential of like it's a first issue, but also it's to give people a jumping on point to get into this world. And it seems like this sort of lacks that.
Yeah.
My takeaway is that everyone should play one Falcom series or the other. I'll just stick with the other one.
I guess that means I'm Team Ease.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on I'm just going to be a massive hypocrite here and be like, okay, everyone should play Yakuza.
You can totally play like a Dragon 7 with no context.
Well, see, there you go. See, that was their...
that's their issue number 1. Yeah. And then, of course, they fucked it up royally with the man who erased his name, but we'll get into that. So we're talking about Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. So this is the latest mainline entry in the Yakuza / Like a Dragon series. I know the rebranding, but it's real difficult to talk about Like a Dragon without talking about Yakuza because, like 7 of the games are called Yakuza. It's the 8th mainline entry, and it's going to be continuing the turn-based combat from Yakuza Like a Dragon, which was the soft reboot of the series that featured some characters in cameo roles from the old series, but primarily focused on a new set of characters and a new generation, essentially. And it was super successful in doing that. I love Yakuza Like a Dragon, and in this game they're combining them much more. So Ichiban, who is the main character of Yakuza Like a Dragon, is teaming up with Kazuma Kiryu, who is the main character of Yakuza to Yakuza 6, The Song of Life. And Kiryu recently had a little spin-off game called Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name, which I thought was not good. And they're picking up on a lot of story threads of that. And to be honest, that is the only reason why this is not my most anticipated game of 2024. Because otherwise, I am so over the moon excited about this game. It's set in Hawaii, so we're getting a brand new world space. It looks like there's going to be the same over-the-top melodrama. The business mini game in this is you're given an island resort and you have to develop it.
It looks so cool.
It looks so good. It looks so good. And I am very excited for this. The demo for it, after playing The Man Who Erased His Name, I was just like, oh crap. No, this is a series I love so much. And I think, and mind you, I was on the low end of the opinions about Man Who Erased His Name. I thought the storyline was astoundingly bad. But then I played the demo for this and I was like, okay, I got hope back. Okay. Yeah. This feels right. I'm just really excited for it. It has everything I love about Yakuza and more of it. It looks like to be the biggest one yet. Whether or not that's a good thing, it's apparently the world space is like 4 times the size of the world space in Yakuza Like a Dragon.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. At that point, they're approaching open world instead of walled garden. So I kind of wish that they would go back, actually. I mean, we'll see. They might in the future, but like rather than keep making it bigger, I kind of wish that they would just go back to Kamurocho and maybe spend more time like developing it even more, like the same amount of content as is in a massive open world, but in just like a couple of blocks of space. That would be really cool to me.
I mean, I had a lot of criticisms of the original Judgment, even though I liked it. But like, unless memory is wrong here, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Jono, like it was all Kamurocho. Like, and it felt like enough space to me in Judgment.
It
for
did
sure.
Me too. And in like Yakuza 4, they also expanded it dramatically with they expanded the city dramatically with like you could get up on roofs and there was now an underground, and I think there's just a lot more to explore there than they've been taking advantage of in the last few games because it is Kiryu's playground, so to speak, and I think they're trying to create other ones.
This is one of my most anticipated games of the year. And that might seem strange because like I've played 3.5 Yakuza games, and 2 of them aren't even Yakuza games or Like a Dragon games. I played
and one
Judgment.
of them you don't like at all.
Right. Yeah, I did not like the second Judgment game, but I really enjoyed the first Judgment. I had some issues with it, but I liked it. And Like a Dragon 7, oh my goodness, I loved it.
Oh, so
it was my game of the year that year. Like I thought it was phenomenal. I love the cast so much. There are issues with like, I don't know, like the class system, which I thought was half baked, but like that's nitpicking. Like it was just so. It was like a shot of joy. And Ichiban is such a remarkable protagonist and such a clear contrast from Kiryu that it feels so good to play. And it felt so perfect to me in so many ways. And I am absolutely jazzed to see 8. I'm actually a little bit disappointed as a person who mostly has played, 7, and I've played the side series Judgment, like to see that they're bringing more like earlier stuff back. And I think that I'm not too worried about it. Like I'm sure I'll still understand enough. Like I played like half of Zeros. Like I know who Kazuma Kiryu is, and I liked that half I played. I just fell off of it, but yeah,
just go back. It's real good.
Yeah, I really do intend to, but
I know.
Gotta play those Trails games.
Yeah, exactly.
Zach, you're not alone in that. I I played starting from Yakuza Kiwame and then going back to playing 2, and then I've played all of them that are available to me, and I love all of them. And obviously I love Kiryu and I love these characters. I can't help but wish that they made a clean break. I really do. I wish that and maybe they will after this, because based on this is actually a spoiler for the game because I haven't played it, but based in the footage and things like that, Kiryu is not doing well. Kiryu is sick, and they might be bringing his story to a conclusion. I don't know. That is, I gotta be honest, Kiryu getting sick I'm concerned about it. Not about Kiryu, but I'm concerned about the way they're bringing his story to an end. And I'm hoping that the new team behind Infinite Wealth can stick that landing, because that's going to be a hard landing to stick, frankly.
Yeah.
We'll see. But I have faith because, oh my God, the demo is fun.
I'm very excited.
Yeah, demo's great.
It's a day one purchase for me, for sure. The first one of the year. Absolutely.
Oh, I never like to pull rank when it comes to being the review manager ever, but
this is one where you get to, Jono.
I pull rank when it comes to Like a Dragon. If I can review the Like a Dragon game, I review the Like a Dragon game. Not just because I want to. Yeah. I want to keep my stupid in-joke, the something is in crisis.
The crisis. It's one of my favorite things at RPGFan over the last 5 years, so thank you.
You don't even need to pull rank because we all want you to do it.
Yeah,
exactly. I agree. I agree. I'm always excited to read your reviews, and I thought that your review of the new one and the negativity of it was great. It felt honest as a result.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on to something that... in a weird way, is like a strange pseudo cousin of Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. The Persona series, while it's not like a sister series, there's a lot of DNA there shared between Yakuza Like a Dragon and Persona. And the team of Persona they're good. They're doing something different. They're doing something real different with Metaphor ReFantazio. So the Persona series is known for its ridiculously amazing sense of design. The design of Persona is incredible, and it looks like they're doing something completely different but equally striking with Metaphor. It looks really friggin' cool. We still don't have a tremendous amount about it yet. We know that there's going to be like social links very similar to Persona. It should play quite a bit like Persona, but it looks really, really cool. So presumably it'll also have a banging soundtrack.
Yeah, no, I mean, it really does look great. I'm glad we're getting more and more about it.
Yeah, I am too.
I'm
just glad they're doing something different.
Yeah.
I think that every developer, every now and then, especially when they have like a run of hits and a beloved series, doing something different can refresh them. And it's a little bit like a vacation, but it can refresh them and it can inspire new ideas.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
look at the date system. Idol's Day.
Yeah.
Does that mean it's a weekend? I'm going to assume that means it's a weekend.
Maybe. Yeah, I just appreciate them going somewhere where it's like, it's, not classical RPG exactly, but it's not, modern day like they're used to. And I love that. I love that they do that. But it's really refreshing to see something very different from them, but still using some of the like really, really cool design sensibilities.
Right. And the successful elements that everybody wants more of.
Yeah, like especially since Persona 5. I mean, the UI design, like not to go too far into like design and like my design and designer background, but oh my God. Like
I know.
It's so I never get tired of looking at this stuff. Like their new it's company wide because the Persona 3 remake is doing it too. It just we're so used to like basic things like a menu system being like, well, obviously you have to have just a straight, a vertical list of text on one side and this over here. And there's like, no, what if the text was all warped and like weird and like nothing just, I don't know. It's just, it really just messes with your expectations.
Let's make it way more landscape.
Yeah, just the look of that, and like even just the UI when you're going around, the display of the date, and I don't know, I just love looking at it.
Well, what I've always found fascinating about the graphic design of Persona and the graphic design of this is logically, if you just look at it, it should just look like Photoshop vomit. Like it's chaotic, and at first glance, it shouldn't make any sense as an interface, and it works.
Like the battle system screens?
Like the battle system screens, you look at it and you're like, well, this is random as hell.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, no, this actually does work. Interesting. Wow, that takes a lot of talent to do.
Mm-hmm.
Talent and experience, not just make something look good, but to make it work as well.
And I see we are also getting some of the classic like SMT Persona gross enemy designs.
Oh yeah. I guess these like teeth with cavities are not the grossest looking thing, but the other thing,
they have like a skull face in cavities.
well, they do, but then you got this thing with like its 4 eyes and this like tongue snake with a flower and an eyeball at the end of it. So yeah.
I mean, there's nothing here as disturbing as a fungus bear. So
yeah, the fungus bear is worse.
That's true.
But that is because cordyceps personally repulses me. So
yeah. I mean, one last thing just to cover, like, this was one of those games, speaking of things that got announced early,
yeah,
it used to be called Project ReFantazio, and it just, for years, it was like, whatever happened with that?
What is it exactly?
Because it didn't have a name, and it's just like, here was some artwork. And it actually, I can't easily look back at past news articles because they're not on our current website right now. The oldest news article we have right now is in late 2020 when they had to like remind people like, yes, actually this game still does exist. So like it's been a while.
I mean, Metaphor ReFantazio sounds like the name of an anime version of an Assassin's Creed character.
Yeah. Yeah.
And with that terrible joke, let's move into something that I have an odd feeling that Josh will likely enjoy quite a bit that's coming out later this year. It's called Mina the Hollower. So Solosi wrote the blurb of this, and Solosi, I think, is he's a big fan of this series, and boy, I am too. Shovel Knight. Yacht Club Games, their side-scrolling homage to the 8-bit side-scroller in the style of Mega Man and stuff like that, Shovel Knight. It became a sensation, a phenomenon. They released Shovel Knight, then they released 3 pieces of DLC that were approximately the same size as Shovel Knight, but with completely using the villains of Shovel Knight as the protagonists, each one with a very different attack and movement system, and they're all good. Value for your money. If you love a side scroller, you can't beat Shovel Knight Treasure Trove. Holy crap, you get your money's worth of that thing. I love it.
Yep.
They decided we're going to do something different this time. And they announced Mina the Hollower, which, based on just the way it looks, you see it and you're like, that's Link's Awakening.
Yep.
And nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Visually, anyway.
Yeah, visually.
Well, even if you watch the first trailer, when I saw their crowdfunding for it, it was just like, you look at it, it was like, it kind of looks like they redrew Link's sprite from Link's Awakening and turned him into a mouse. It's like all the ways he moves, it's like a very authentic Game Boy looking game that just
It really
completely it's Link's Awakening, but you play a mouse. It also brings to mind Crystallis. Maybe a bit of Star Tropics. Like it has that look to it. Because it's 8-bit, right? And like, yeah, it looks like a Game Boy because it uses like a square grid, and your character is a square rather than the taller characters of those other NES games.
Yeah, specifically looks like a Game Boy Color game.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, I know people hate it, but I first played Crystallis on the Game Boy Color, so that that's why it brings that to life for me a lot. But just looking at the landscapes again, it's just like, wow, it really looks like those other just like great action RPGs type games from that era. So yeah, I unfortunately this is a game I tend to kind of forget about because it's just been very quiet. They don't say much about it, and I didn't crowdfund it, so I don't get updates. But I am excited about it. I love Link's Awakening. It's one of my favorite Zelda games. So this is absolutely, if it actually comes out this year, it'll be my first Yacht Club game. I've only played like 10 minutes of Shovel Knight.
I really hope that I hope it lives up to that, because Yacht Club Shovel Knight is so good.
For me,
I'm excited to see what else they can do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I mentioned it on a podcast, but I bought Shovel Knight back when it came out, or well, I think I crowdfunded it. I can't remember. It's been so long, and I got it on the Wii U because, of course, that was the thing that I had at the time, and then never got around to finishing it because it was on the Wii U. So actually in 2023 is finally when I said, you know what? And I got Treasure Trove. I just started over, and I'm like, no.
That's actually why I never played it either. I bought it on the Wii U.
It's
oh, poor Wii U.
It's fantastic. So I'm like, I'm not I don't want to directly compare to Supergiant or anything, but like for me, like that game, that like love letter to like the NES style, like they nailed it so well between that and delivering on all their DLC, which, you know, were all originally part of I think all of them were part of the Kickstarter, right? It was just like, it just took a long time to build all of it because they're like, they were so successful. They're like, oh, we actually have to do all this now. I mean, but for me, like based on that and their track record of the one game, I mean, like I have faith in them on this. Like it seems to me like what Shovel Knight was for like an NES style game this is for like a Game Boy Color kind of game. So I'm really looking forward to it.
I have hope as well. I'm really looking forward to this title. And it's original, which is nice. It's a brand new original IP, so it'll be exciting to see what they can do with that.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to something that is definitely not a new IP. In fact, it is a very old IP, and oh my god, I can't believe they're doing it. Nintendo is releasing a Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door remaster. Yeah, I mean, The Thousand Year Door is a beloved game for so many people. People consider it to be frankly, I mean, it has some stiff competition up against Super Mario RPG, but the best Mario RPG and maybe one of the best games on the GameCube period. And we're getting a remake of it, which is, or I guess it's a remaster technically, but I mean, this game it barely needs an update in terms of its visuals because the Paper Mario series is deliberately minimalistic. So it shouldn't look dated at all. It should just be clean and fun and maybe soft. I guess not soft because it's paper. Cut up trim some of the rough points around the edges.
Yeah.
And I think that everyone is pretty damn excited about it.
Yeah,
for sure.
like I've been playing Paper Mario 64 recently, and I've actually not played Thousand Year Door very much. It's kind of a blind spot for me, especially for Mario games. So having played the original one on Switch recently, and then them announcing the next one, I'm like, well, I guess I can play another Paper Mario next year. So I'm pretty excited to give it a shot.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the ones I missed because I love Paper Mario. I just, for some reason, didn't pick this one up. And just to make sure that this was still accurate, I'm looking it up on eBay just to see. And like it routinely, I mean, there's one that just sold a few days ago for $67 with just a disc. There's not even
that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
the one in my local game shop was going for like $250 recently.
Yeah, I mean,
before this was announced.
a lot of these are under 100, but some only barely. Except for this one that's like mint in box that sold for $500. But otherwise, it's, you know, not the cheapest game to like pick up. I mean, for a secondhand price, you know, that's up there. So I'm like, I'm glad they're doing this because I want to play it and I just never got around to it, but I'm not going to pay that much for it.
My story is exactly the same as Mike's.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of GameCube games that are still stuck on the GameCube and worth a lot of money because they're stuck on the GameCube. Hopefully this is just, well, it's not the beginning because we got Metroid Prime also, but and Batten Kaitos also.
Yeah,
but
right.
Maybe this year was the start and they'll just keep them coming.
Hopefully.
Yeah, the GameCube is interesting because I would much rather be stuck on the Wii U than the GameCube because anything that was stuck on the Wii U eventually got shuffled over to the Switch. So at least the good stuff.
Except the Wind Waker and Twilight Princess.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Xenoblade
But a lot
Chronicles
of
Cross.
And Xenoblade, yeah. Only those three, though. I mean, a lot of other things.
There's still time. Nintendo has more time to continue to shovel over games that were missed on their previous console onto the new one. Well, the quote-unquote new one.
Yeah.
Speaking of remakes, let's talk about Persona 3 Reload. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, they're finally doing something different than Persona 5. Unfortunately, it's Persona 3 again. Well, actually, that's not unfortunate. It's just like, wow, it's a classic. Wow, they cannot count to 6, can they?
No, but it looks so nice. It really does.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of my most anticipated games of the year. Like, I've wanted to play Persona 3 for so long, and I'm like, do I play Fez? Do I play P3P? I feel like both of them have their positives and negatives. And then, like, I saw this. I was like, nope, never mind. I know my answer. Because it's the only Persona game that I want to play, at least, because I don't want to play Persona 1, that I have not played. And I anywhere from like really like to absolutely adore Innocent Sin, the Persona games. And so I will be on this like white on rice. Like I am so excited for this game. And yeah, I think it looks fantastic too. And everybody tells me it's like the blend between like what Persona was in 1 and 2
Yep.
and 2 I'm excited for, and what Persona became, and like that's speaking my language right there.
Yeah, and it's an amazing transition, to be honest. Like I like it a lot. And also I think it's old enough, just old enough where I'm not exactly mad that they're updating it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. We've really got to motor through from here.
Oh, we really got to motor through because of what's coming up next.
Oh, that's funny.
Wow, let's just skip that one.
I thought for sure that was the joke.
Yeah.
I wasn't even looking. I wasn't looking at what came next. I was like, oh crap, we're running really short on time. We really got to motor through. Well, that's a perfect excuse then. Okay. Oh, well, screw it. I was going to cut all this, but that's actually pretty funny. So let's just keep it. So Saga Emerald Beyond. I'm beyond caring. Does anyone else want to talk about this?
You know what? It's one of those series that it really has its fans. Like it's never. I've only played Saga Frontier. It's the only one I've played. I have heard and think Scarlet Grace looks pretty nice, and this is a follow up to that. You know, I'm not saying it's going to win you over, Jono, but you know, it's.
I mean, Jono's not going to play.
I would be stunned.
I think it looks great. Scarlet Grace, I think, looked great. I haven't played a Saga game since also Frontier. I played Legend 1 and 2. I will not be playing this, but I hope it's good.
I hope it's good too.
Me too. Top perspective characters are the ones that are feature writer described as the sapphic pair of police officers hunting down a suspected assassin. That's a story I'm interested in.
Yeah, I mean, the characters are very, very interesting to me.
Sounds like a way better game, actually. Yeah, the characters are what makes Saga. Okay, I will drop my slightly overplayed hatred of the Saga series for a moment and say that I am glad that Square Enix is continuing to develop this series as it's one of their long-running series. And my experience playing the Saga series has taught me that this is not the series for me. And I will not review another Saga game because I have an odd feeling that it would not be a positive review, even if it was a great example of a Saga game. Clearly I am not excited about this, but I know a lot of people are. So good for them. I hope they have a great time here.
Yep.
Okay. As a transition, I will say I would rather be buried in sand than play Saga Emerald Beyond, and that is a possibility in the game Sandland. So this is a fascinating looking game. Kind of came out of nowhere. People are going to recognize the. How can I put this? It has a very recognizable artistic design behind it.
Yep.
Yeah. Does this this is action RPG, right? It's not a JRPG.
I believe it's action RPG.
Yeah, that's
it
what
also
I thought.
has like tank shooter elements. It looks like
That is an interesting. Yeah, it does have like tank shooter elements. It looks like, I mean, for God's sake, it looks like Dragon Quest or Dragon Ball or Chrono Trigger. Like it is what it looks like. But I mean, it's a damn cool art style. So fingers crossed that it's good. It's based on the anime Sandland. So if anyone wants to get caught up before they play it, they have that option.
And then,
is anyone excited about this?
I think it looks really cool. Like I don't follow like Toriyama stuff outside. I don't follow Dragon Ball either, but I know of it. I didn't know
Akira Toriyama. Yes, I should have probably mentioned that. Yes, Akira Toriyama was was the artist behind it.
So like I personally didn't know of it, but like the fact that this is a manga or a story from like 2000, like being turned into a game 24 years later. So I can see why one of the reasons people were really excited about it, because it's like,
until you said
I guess it was really good.
Yeah, until you said there was a manga saying, I just assumed this was a new IP and that they got Toriyama to do the art. So,
no,
looks neat.
I gotta say, from what I've seen, I am really enjoying seeing his style like updated to kind of modern game graphics.
Between like Dragon Quest 11 and this, like I think you would think his art style would like have really like. I think it worked on like older consoles, but I think it's really, really working on like modern stuff. Like I think they've really made that work in in a 3D setting. Because like if you did it like cell shaded, but like you could do it. But I don't know. Like again, I'm talking about just visuals here, but I think it's fun to look at, and I hope it does well because it looks really interesting, and it's just nice seeing something new and different.
Okay, let's move on now to is it called Sheeran the Wanderer, the mystery dungeon of Serpent Coil Island? I do not know what this game is. I'm not even going to pretend that I know what this game is. I'm looking at screenshots of it right now. It looks like an early era PlayStation 1 game. And that's not a bad thing.
Sheeran's been around a long time, and just very few of them have ever come out here.
It's Spike Chunsoft, I know that.
Yeah, but like I wish I'd looked this up to confirm. So if I'm wrong, then I'm sure someone will correct me. But as far as I know, that they started that's where the Mystery Dungeon like style of game and Mystery Dungeon series began before it
that was
became
my
like
understanding.
spin-offs like Chocobo's Mysteries Dungeon and lots of others. But that is the originator of it.
You know what? I'm going to take that back. It doesn't look like a PlayStation game. It looks like a Nintendo 64 game.
The new one does?
There's a difference. There's a difference. And I'm not just talking about in terms of 32 versus 64-bit. Like, the look of it really does remind me of a Nintendo 64 game.
Aww.
I think you need to play an N64 game again.
Okay,
it's not
yes,
quite
clearly
there,
it's a little bit more advanced, but like in
it's
terms of the character
polygon
design,
graphics.
Yeah, there's a certain chunkiness that I associate with 64 over PlayStation, so I can kind of see it.
Yeah, I would actually. You want to know what? That's a perfect way to describe it. Nintendo 64 is chunky, whereas PlayStation is sharp.
Yeah,
chunky polygons versus sharp polygons. Yeah. That's the difference.
Chunky polygons with blurry textures versus sharp polygons with sharp textures.
Well, I'm planning to give this one a shot. I've been wanting to try one of them for a long time, so they're putting it on my Switch where it's really convenient to play. So I'll probably give it a shot.
Yeah, and I'm happy for everyone who's been waiting since 2015.
Yeah, it came out. Well, I mean, this one is coming out in Japan in January, and it's being followed up with, I think it's coming out in February.
Okay.
So, yeah, like you said, it's a long running series. So it has some history behind it. It'd be nice if it could get a little bit of traction. It looks cool. I'm just not really. I don't really know anything about it. Mm-hmm. Moving on now to something else that I know nothing about, but oh my god, the graphic style is crazy. So folks out there might be familiar with the game Moon Remix RPG Adventure. It was a PlayStation it was an anti-RPG, I believe, that was released, and it was never localized officially. And then it got it was a cult classic, and it got an official localization like last year, or was the year before that?
One of those 22 years after its release.
Yeah. So this seems to be almost a spiritual successor. It's some of the same people behind Moon, and it seems to be evoking much of the same feel and look. And I suspect it's going to be an experience, something to talk about.
Yeah.
I really want to play this and Moon.
Yeah. I mean, it's games like this
coming to Retro Encounter in January.
Yeah.
If they need another person, I won't do it.
You're more than welcome.
Oh, there we go. Now you've said it on air.
Uh-oh.
Not to like overblow this or anything, but like games like this, I think it's just one of those. It makes it a really interesting time just in video games. Like Moon was one of those things. It appeared in one of our features 5 years ago. In like a things that never got localized kind of thing, and it was something that Rob Fenner wrote about. And this is like if you have read RPGFan for a while, or Rob Fenner, this is a Fenner game. Like he loves this like weird stuff like this, and like I appreciate that he would introduce me and us to like stuff I'd never heard about, and just the idea of this like weird little game by a developer that like has not existed for a long time. The original devs are the original company, like it's long gone. It's just like, it was always just, well, that's it. This game came out in Japan. We'll never get it. It's a cool idea. And the idea that it actually came out here by like, some people like coming together and be like, you know what, why don't we release this here? Thanks to Toby Fox, if you've never read that story.
Thanks, Toby.
Because Toby Fox was like partially inspired by Moon, and somehow knows like one of the people here and was like, hey, you should make Moon happen. I don't know. It's a bizarre story. So like the fact that came out and now they're doing this other game and they're doing more games in that weird,
and that it's following so closely on the heels of Moon finally coming here.
It's just really neat.
Yeah.
It's really cool to see. So I hope it does whatever it is. I hope it does well because it looks fascinating.
I've always maintained that the graphic style of these games, it looks like if you're having a dream and you're playing an RPG on a TV in the dream.
Yeah.
That's what this game looks like.
Yep.
That's a good way of putting it.
It doesn't look dream-like. It almost looks like a jumble of things that don't quite fit together, like an impressionistic version of what graphics look like. And because of that, it creates this incredibly fascinating graphic style, which apparently is very much reflected in the gameplay. So I think that this is going to be I don't know if it'll be a massive hit. I do think it should be something that we are talking about a lot next year.
Mm-hmm.
I hope we're talking about it a lot next year.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. Hey, Zach, want to take the next one?
I mean, I could talk about Suikoden. I bet to keep it short, have you played Suikoden 1 and 2? They're really good, especially 2. They're going to make it look prettier, and they're going to fix the localization, which is 100% the only real problem with those games. And they're coming out this year. You should play them. They're awesome.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Basically sums up everything we need to say about this. Yeah, this is going to be awesome. Again, if you're looking for a value in your games, you can't beat the value here because they're two amazing RPGs and they're going to look better than ever. And you're going to have, this would be a good, do we know yet whether or not this is coming out before or after?
I actually don't know that it has a specific release date, but I've always speculated that it would be like a month after Eiyuden Chronicle.
Yeah, that seems about right. I gotta mop up.
Do we know who's actually developing this? I mean, is it actually an in-house Konami team? Because I don't know if they still have those.
We haven't heard anything differently as far as I'm aware.
I don't know.
That is my concern, actually, about this.
Well, no, I mean, I'm really not concerned because like the collections they've been putting out, the Ninja Turtles and the Castlevania ones have been great. So, I mean, like they actually, I know Konami's been in a weird place and we always make fun of them. It's like, haha, pachinko machines.
No, but I keep hearing from you, like they put so much care and effort into their collections.
Like recently, they're repackaging these things, but not in a cheap collection. Like, hey, let's just make some money. Like they really put the effort in. So
I agree with you, but they rarely do remasters. They do collections, but these seem to be remasters of the original with redone backgrounds, widescreen. Like there's a lot of work that needs to be done here to improve the visuals of these games.
Yeah.
Well, not that much because the games look great as is, but you know what I mean.
I do. But I mean, to give them credit, they're including, I think, the original graphics and the original music too, right? As options. So I'm like, it's one of those things like I don't, me as a
fingers crossed
as a designer or a website, like when you change things, people don't like it. A lot of people do, and a lot of people don't. Like when we switched over the site in 2020, like so many people were like, "Oh, can you change it back?" We're like, "No, that's not how it works. Like it's built on a different. We can't just make it work the same way. Also, there are things that are better. So like, I don't want to go too far down the Apple old Steve Jobs route of like, no, we're gonna tell you what you want kind of thing. But like, it's actually really hard and not always the best idea to try to please both sides of it. But whatever, if they can do it, if they can do all this new stuff and say, well, if you don't like it, you can still play it the original way, but on your current consoles, well, then that's fantastic. Like you can't. There's no way to complain about that. If you get it both ways with a better localization, like I don't see how it can't be good.
Fingers crossed. We're moving on now to Unicorn Overlord, which is the most suggestive title I've ever heard of a video game in my life.
Am I the only one that even though I know it's Overlord, always wants to read Unicorn Overload?
But that's an even more suggestive title.
Yeah, I will admit that at least 6 times during this conversation, as I've been looking through this list, I've read Overload.
Okay, all right.
Well,
so, yeah, you're not alone, Mike.
Thank you.
Well, also, like, the fonts they have going on.
Yeah, the fonts are, like, really... Someone argued with me that it's not the God of War font, but it's the God of War font. Or at least something similar. Like, it's a really, like... That logo is, like, really trying hard. But whatever. It's Vanillaware. It's fantastic looking. I don't. It's another developer like for me. Like I don't see how they could really not do well. So
Yeah, I know. And I mean, you look at it, you look at some of the screenshots of it, and yeah, it seems like the kind of game where you want to fight it out.
Yeah, that's right.
Um,
This is like my moment here. This is my most anticipated game of the decade.
is.
Like,
Okay.
it's the spiritual successor to Ogre Battle,
there we go.
coming from something that's not a little indie developer.
Mhm.
It also has a stupid name, just like Ogre Battle does.
There you go.
Although Ogre Battles is based on a Queen song, I haven't checked if this one is named after a Queen song. Somehow I doubt it. Yeah, like they were a bit dramatic with it and reframed it as something like the rebirth of the tactical RPG. But I'll take it. I'm extremely excited about somebody finally picking up the Ogre Battle gameplay.
Yeah.
You know, we were talking about Saga a bit ago and how it's really cool that Square is willing to keep it alive, even though it's kind of a niche thing. I'm glad they keep it alive because it gives me hope that eventually they'll get around to remastering the game I actually want them to remaster. But in the meantime, Vanillaware taking the reins and making something completely gorgeous, I will take. It'll do. So yeah, this will be absolutely takes precedence over everything else for me.
Nice.
Come March.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just
Going to liberate your Switch.
I'm happy to see. I mean, not that it's such a novel thing now, but like it is a little bit. Just more and more emphasis on strategy RPGs.
Mhm.
You know, I know last year we had stuff like, well, I don't know if people really end up liking the Deofield Chronicle, but whatever. They still made an SRPG and no one expected it.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
there
The
was
effort was made.
there was there was a time there when we would do games of the year and like E3 stuff, and we always did genres, and sometimes we did not have anything for SRPG. There was just nothing, or maybe it was like, what are the nominees? Like, well, a Disgaea game came out this year, and that
Right.
was it.
and Fire Emblem.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we'll be for that though. Yeah, like once Fire Emblem came back, like that helped too. But there was some time where we're just like, there's just no one's making these things anymore. So it's really cool seeing more and more of that. And I think between Fire Emblem being a major success again, and now Vanillaware is getting into it, I think we're just going to keep seeing more. Not to mention like how many indie SRPGs there are now.
Yeah, I really do think, as much as I'm not like the biggest Fire Emblem fan, I think we pretty much have Intelligent Systems to thank for bringing back strategy RPGs,
Mhm.
making them
Yeah.
a big deal again, to the point that, yeah, like I never got around to playing Deofield Chronicle past the demo, but the demo was neat. I'll buy it on sale someday and play through it.
Yeah.
And getting Tactics Ogre back, and where is
Mhm.
Final Fantasy Tactics?
Yeah, right.
But it's just like the idea that we can get any of this now would have seemed impossible 5 years ago.
Mhm.
And so I'm really, really excited. This is one of my favorite genres, obviously, and seeing my favorite adaptation of the genre coming from one of the most celebrated developers is incredible.
Was anyone else giggling at the fight it out?
Why?
What my horrible joke?
Yeah. I
Oh.
caught it.
I missed
I've been
it.
giggling about it since I made it.
Oh.
Thank you for that. And so let's find out just how good Unicorn Overlord is going to be.
Okay, all right.
Yes, I tried to
Gotcha,
put as many in jokes into this one as possible. Well, moving on now to the last 3 games on the list. First up is, wow, this is interesting. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. Now, first off, that is quite a title. And the reason for it is because Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines was a game that was released, decades ago. It was, 2004. And it was a critical... It did not do well. It did very, very poorly. But it did develop into a bit of a cult favorite. And they announced a few years ago that there was going to be a sequel to Bloodlines 2. And this thing has been in development hell for a long time. Some developers were assigned to it and they left, and then others left. And finally, recently it was announced that the developer, the Chinese Room, it took over development of Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, and that caught my attention. The reason why is because they are generally known as the pioneers of walking simulators. They were the developer. Their very first major game was Dear Esther, which was like the prototypical walking simulator. And they have also done Everyone's Gone to the Rapture. They have a game coming out in a few months or next year, which I'm actually kind of excited about, called Still Wakes the Deep, which looks like a bit of a horror walking simulator, very much in line. But this is going to be an RPG. So this is like something they really haven't done too much with. They do know horror. They've made an Amnesia game, A Machine for Pigs, but I'm pretty excited about seeing what they do with this. Not something I'm super excited about. Like, it's not like I got to play this game, but it is something, as someone who recently played Dear Esther for the first time and was like, oh, I totally see how this developed into the walking sim genre. I'm kind of curious to see what the Chinese room does with it. And plus, it's a very old IP, and I'd like to see old IPs get resurrected by people who were inspired by the original. And it seems like that's what's happening here. Has anyone played Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines?
I've not. For a long time, I was, even though I didn't play the original, I was very worried about this game because of the development problems. And when you talk about development problems, when you like remove key people from the team and change developers, and like, boy, this does not bode well. But like you said, like they landed on someone who is known for good games, so I hope it works out for him. It's such an unknown kind of thing. Like it's actually like we talked about before with Guerrilla Games going from Killzone to Horizon and some other ones. I'm like, it could go really well or just be, who knows. So I hope it does well for them, because I feel like people are really want this sequel. So I hope it works out.
I cannot believe they're not changing the title to something a little bit better than Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. Oh my God, that is quite a title.
Yeah, right.
Well, talking about another 2, but one that I'm considerably more excited about, is The Wolf Among Us 2. This is another game that rose from the dead, because The Wolf Among Us was a Telltale Games adaptation of Fables, the comic book. And it was a wonderful kind of noirish mystery set in a fairy tale world where the characters from fairy tales exist in modern day New York City. And I just love it. Hilary and we were on a podcast together. Oh my God, was it last year? Yes, it was.
It was our Autumn of Adventure.
Time flies. The game did very, very well, and Telltale announced a sequel to it. So it was going to be The Wolf Among Us 2. It was announced in 2017, and then, of course, Telltale ran into a bit of a spot of trouble, to put it mildly. And since then, the game has apparently been constantly under development, which I don't buy, but it's now officially coming out next year, and it is going to be a direct sequel to the original, still starring Bigby Wolf. And it should be in the classic Telltale design, with lots of choices and being able to develop your own story. The trailer that got released a long time ago now, not a long time ago, was it last year? It looked like Bigby Wolf was fighting against the gang from The Wizard of Oz. So
nice. Yeah,
it looks like it's remaining true to the original. And Hill, I know you're excited for it.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, did they confirm next year release?
I think they did.
Oh, okay. Last I saw was just, the layoffs like 3 months ago at Telltale, but they're like, yeah, it's still happening. If they, if they did, then that's great. I thought it was just like, I thought 2024 was going to be optimistic given Telltale's issues again.
Yeah.
I didn't think so. I know it was pushed.
Yeah.
Hang on, 2024 pushed to next year to avoid crunch. Yeah, so they're avoiding crunch, but the game has been released. The game is apparently far enough along that it should be released this year.
Well, that's great then. All right.
I hope it is.
I didn't read that one, so that's good. I think it looks great.
That means I've got some comics to read.
Yeah. Perhaps avoid he recently revived the series with a 12-issue miniseries. It's fine. It's fine. Fables lost its way about 3/4 of the way through, I feel. Still okay, but like up to that point, it was brilliant. But then it happens sometimes. Let's talk about the last game, which is Ys 10 Nordics. I've never played a Ys game.
I played a couple. Hilary's played a couple.
Yep.
I know it's pronounced Ys.
Yes. Well, you're on your way then.
Ys.
I think this one looks really cool. It looks like a nice update, I guess, from 9. I don't know. I mean, unlike the Trails games, I appreciate that they're standalone. It looks very nice, even though it hasn't actually been confirmed for coming out here. It's obvious that it will. It's just a matter of time. So I don't think it's unrealistic to say it's going to come out next year.
Oh, I do. I really don't think it's a 2024 game.
No,
It would not shock me if we didn't get it till the end of like 2025 or later.
It's already out in Japan.
Yeah, I know. They just, I mean, Falcom games, even the Trail series, is so hit and miss on how fast are they going to localize it for us. And I'm just like, they got all these Trail games lined up.
That's
are they really
true.
going to just cram East in here somewhere? So,
I mean, but like Trails is like so much of a bigger task to localize.
Yeah.
that is true.
Like I feel like it's probably reasonable.
Like I'd love for it to come out. Like East is another one of my favorite series. Like I've played the majority of them. But yeah, I was not really expecting it. Didn't really have it on my radar for next year. Just figured it'd be way later.
You might be onto something. No, you might be onto something. I was looking at Ease 9. Ease 9 came out in September 2019 and was localized early 2021. So
Yeah.
it could be late next year.
Cool. At the moment, my release schedule for the end of next year is totally blank, so they can fit it right
Let's
there.
aim for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about Silk Song? When Silk Song gets shadow dropped next November.
Yeah, Silk Song, everyone's favorite. We'll be talking about this in a second, but yeah.
Yeah, I generally think that East kind of just gets better over time. There's not a lot of game series I think that of where like every new game is just better than the one before it. But I generally feel that way about East. Like I think 9 is the best one they've made. So, and I thought 8 was the best before that. So I kind of feel like I'm excited. I think it'll be a really good time.
Cool. All right, well, that's the end of our list. But just before we go and move into some other things briefly, I mean, we are an RPG and adventure game focused site, but I wanted to ask if anyone has any games that are coming out in 2024 that aren't on this list that you'd be you just want to mention that you're really pumped for.
Silk Song is definitely coming out in 2024. The end.
Zach. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. It's just not. Let me put it this way. I firmly believe that Hollow Knight 2 will be released before Silk Song is ever released.
You're doing exactly what we talked about earlier. You're trying to like downplay it. So you're still going to
Silk Song when?
Yeah.
I'm the person who's in the Nintendo Direct comments just saying Silk Song when over and over again with calling emojis.
Oh, I always hide that chat, so I've never seen you do it.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. If it is, I would be very excited for it. I have no faith. I firmly think they'll shadow drop it. I honestly do.
I could see them doing it.
But I would be very excited if they just shadow drop it in a Direct. That would be hilariously funny to me. Don't even do it as the last game. Just do it in the middle of it.
Hey, Silk Song is available now. Moving on.
Yeah.
Foam Stars 2.
The only way they could possibly break more brains by doing that is they followed up the announcement of a shadow drop of Silk Song with a shadow drop of Mother 3.
Oh my God.
Oh, goodness.
That would be
That's my most anticipated 2024 game now.
Yeah, right.
Anybody else?
There's a game that just got announced 2 weeks ago that didn't make the list, probably because it was just announced 2 weeks ago. Visions of Mana.
Yes.
Comes out next year. So
it might be on the final list.
but yeah, like we got's one trailer. I haven't looked in a deep dive into it or anything, but getting a brand new Mana game.
Things are still in progress, by the way. With that, by the time you listen to this, the feature will be posted, but obviously things are in motion.
I mean, it's the first new game, new console, whatever, non-mobile game, I guess, in 15 years in the series?
Yeah, it's the first one that
counts. Depending on if you count handhelds. And
I was going to say, Heroes of Mana was the last one, wasn't it?
I don't know. I think they said 15 years. So I'm like, that sounds right. It's been a long time.
And I don't know. I was very happy about the imagery I saw. It felt very like classic Mana to me. So
yeah, I mean, if it's on par with the Trials remake, I mean, I think they know what they're doing with the games. So
yeah, I mean, if it's half as good as the Trials remake, I'll be thrilled.
I imagine that's where they're going to pick up from in terms of where they're taking it.
It looks fantastic.
Yeah, so a not RPG that's definitely not going to be on the list. They're the new Prince of Persia game, The Lost Crown. It's another Metroidvania.
Yeah, it's coming out early next year.
Yeah, very early next year. I was expecting this to just flop in the end, and it might still just flop in the end, but so far the previews have been pretty good. So we'll see if they stick the landing or if they're just really nice trailers.
Well, fingers crossed. Does anyone else have any?
The Stardew Valley 1.6 patch.
Yay!
I mean, I would pick his next game, but like, that could be years away, so I'm not going to pick.
Yeah, Silk Song will get released before his next game.
Yes, actually, probably. I did it.
Although it'd be really funny if it wasn't.
I did have one. What the heck was it? I was just looking at it. Well, Cryptmaster. Cryptmaster looks like a lot of fun. I think that's Hilary's thing.
It's my thing.
Well, you were going to mention it. Witchbrook is kind of like a side thing that, like, who knows? That could be years away, but it's a Chucklefish game, but it's like a life sim RPG. Kind of looks like a Stardew visual, but like in an isometric perspective, and you're like a witch, and it looks adorable.
I want some good witchy games.
Yeah,
and actually, one of my picks was going to be Loose Leaf because I mean, I've been playing Kit Fox's stuff like all the way back to Moon Hunters. So I'm excited to see what they do with that.
Loose Leaf looks really cute.
Yeah, it looks adorable. So that's one for me. Also, there were a bunch of kind of bizarre and fun typing related games at Day of the Devs this year, where you can do a lot of fun things with combat by changing the words, changing letters in the words, to figure out your way through combat and through puzzles. So yeah, Cryptmaster was one of those.
Cryptmaster is the cool, like, black and white looking one, and then you have Leximan.
Leximan, yes,
has a vaguely, like, Undertale-ish look to it. It looks interesting too.
But they both look like a lot of fun. So those are two. I think I would also mention Dustborn.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I don't know if that's happening next year, but it's been a while, so like hopefully it's getting there. Dustborn looks great.
We'll see.
Yeah,
I'd like to mention just a few games, real quick. One of them being Sam & Max: The Devil's Playground Remaster is apparently coming out this year. Speaking of Telltale Games, Resurrected. I can't remember. Blue something? Who got the rights? Somebody, a bunch of developers, Skunk Ape Games, got the rights to the Telltale Sam & Max games, and they've been remastering them since. They're terrific. Like, all three of them are just terrific. Very much in style with the classic LucasArts adventure game, Sam & Max Hit the Road. And they're releasing the third one this year, and it's completely remastered, and I'm pretty excited to play it again, because it's been many, many years since I played it. So I'm excited about that. A game I'm really freaking excited about is, this was just announced at the Game Awards, which was The Rise of the Golden Idol. Who knows if we're getting this in 2024, but it is going to be the sequel to The Case of the Golden Idol, which was one of my favorite games I've ever played, which I firmly believe that, Hilary, you and Mike should be playing over Christmas. I think you both just I think you'd love it if you played it together.
Yeah, I'm excited when we finally get the chance to play it. And I was saving that one for you because I knew you'd be super excited.
Amanda and I played through the entire thing, not including the DLC cases. We're doing that over we played through the entire thing, and it's was 6 hours. So it's not a ridiculous time ask, but it's so good. It's so good. And the sequel's coming out, apparently. That's going to be taking place in the 1970s. I'm really excited about that. Shanti Advanced Risky Revolution is so cool. So Way Forward was developing a sequel to Shanti, which was released in 2001 or 2002. I can't remember which. They were developing a sequel for the Game Boy Advance, and they built more than half of the game, and then development hell happened. Other games took precedence, and they just stopped development on it. And eventually, years later, they released Shanti Risky's Revenge, which was their follow-up. I don't know why, but Way Forward took everything that they had from Shanti Advance Risky Revolution, and they decided to finish the game. So it's going to be a brand new Game Boy Advance game, finished with the Game Boy Advanced hardware in mind. And Limited Run Games is going to be releasing a cartridge for it. For Shanti Advance. So they're completing a game that they stopped development in the early 2000s, which I think is really cool.
That's so cool. Yeah. I've been enjoying seeing them talk about it on the different game shows.
Yes. And I do want to end this on a slightly negative note in a game that I am excited to see what happens to it is Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, because there have been unprecedented leaks about this game the last few weeks. I say unprecedented before the whole Insomniac thing happened, but like the entire story, details, everything have been getting released about this game. And I don't know what's going to happen with this game. I think it's going to be one of the stories of next year is what happens to Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. It's being released in February, so we don't have long to wait. I think it might just end up being the train wreck we all think it's going to be. And if it is, I think the fallout is going to be infinitely more entertaining than the game itself. And I'm really excited to see what happens, because I feel like the success or failure of this game is going to have a tremendous impact on the nature of the industry moving forward. With its like the massive controversy with the live service elements and things like in this game. So I think this is going to have the most influence on what happens after 2024. I don't want to play it, which is a tragedy because it's Rocksteady and it's technically a sequel to the Arkham series. But I guess we'll see. I've read some of the leaks and I'm furious. So I can only imagine how other people will feel. Anyway, those are the games of 2024 that we are vastly, for the most part, looking forward to. And I can guarantee that you will read about almost all of them here at RPGFan. If you're looking for a way to support us here at RPGFan, we have a store. You can find it at www.rpgfan.com/shop. And we still have, for a couple of more days anyway, after this releases, we still have all of our 25th anniversary merchandise. But that's not all. We have a big thing, actually probably one of the biggest things RPG Fan has ever done. I'm going to throw it over to Mike to tell you about that.
Oh, what is it? What's the project?
It's the baby onesie.
That little that thing I've been working on for 10 months. That little thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we're definitely going to be pushing this a lot on the podcast. So forgive me for getting into this a lot here, but yeah, we released our first book. I say first because of course I'm already hoping we can do more, but for several years, we've been posting like mini versions of our reviews on Instagram. We call them review cards. So it basically just summarizes the reviews. You get the score, the pros and cons, like a bite-sized version of our reviews. Although we always encourage people to read the whole review. And they've been really popular. And they've been so popular that Hyperplay RPG, who makes like RPG zines and some other fun little books, like they did an English translation, like a printed English version of Xenogears Perfect Works, which is a really neat fan project. But they approached us and said, hey, those cards are cool. Have you ever thought about making a book out of them? And I said, not until this moment, I didn't. And then most of the year was spent between other site projects working on this thing. And now the book is available. So it's almost 300 pages of review cards. Over 100 of them are new for the book. So there's a lot of things that you may have seen on Instagram, but there's also several things in here you've never seen. And it's been a really, really satisfying project to put together. And so far the reception has been great. So it is, it really depends on when you're ordering it and the exchange rate, because Hyperplay is a UK based company, but it's 40 something pounds, the book. So, whatever that translates to, it's not a bad deal for the size. That includes It includes shipping. Anyway, point is, I really would encourage you to go to rpgfan.com/shop. You can get to our merch shop, like Jono talked about, but we have a new link up for the book. Take a look at it. We have a link to, actually, can we put the link in the show notes for this one too, for like the post?
They will be there.
They will absolutely be there. Because I also wrote a post with some photos of the book, and it's been really satisfying.
They'll be in there.
Seeing it, I think it's beautiful. As I always do, have to give a shout out to Stephanie, because Stephanie came up with the review card concept to begin with, and of course she created some original cover art for the book. And as much work as I put into this and several other people put into it, making the reviews and proofreading, the first impression, like it or not, the first impression of a book is going to be the cover. And this cover is fantastic. So it really gives you a clue of what's inside there. So I don't know. I'm very proud of it. So please check it out. I think you will like it. And if it does well, we are, hopefully we'll do more volumes in the future.
But yeah, Mike, the book is stunning. Like, the book is incredible. I got an advanced copy of it. I just love it. I just love it so much. It's so cool. It's really nice seeing, especially as someone who grew up reading game magazines and eagerly awaiting getting my copy of Game Players every single month in the mail. Seeing my name in print beside a review does give me a certain kick, and I just love that feeling. It's a really cool book. I highly recommend that everyone check it out because there are some really great games and some really great reviews in it as well.
Yep, I haven't had such a thrill seeing RPG Fan in print since we got reviewed in an issue of Tokyo Pop like 20-something years ago.
Aww.
That's a deep cut.
Right? Nope. I still have. Do I have I can't remember if I have the magazine or a scan, but yes, we got reviewed. They reviewed websites, and we were in there.
If you have a scan of that, you should put it up as on the last day of the year for the last thing for the anniversary.
Yeah, I would love to see that.
Let me look for it.
That'd be pretty amazing. That's a way you can support the site. But if you want to support us here at Random Encounter, you can do so by checking out some of our past episodes. Like 2 weeks ago, we had an episode that was immediately following the Game Awards. We talked about all of the stories of the Game Awards. It was a gaming's biggest night. And boy, did we have a big episode about it. But that is not the only podcast we have here at RPG Fan. We also have Retro Encounter, which is normally hosted by Mr. Mike Solosi. The last episode of Retro Encounter was actually hosted by you, Zach. What was it about?
We chatted about Lunar. So we have some reviews that have been going up and are going to be coming up, partially in honor of the 25th anniversary of RPG Fan, because we started as LunarNet, and also partially in honor of the fact that it's the 30th anniversary of the release of the Silver Star. So four of us reviewed the 4 different major versions of Lunar, and we got together to chat about the different versions and sort of the things we liked about those different versions and the things we didn't like about those different versions. It was a good time.
That's awesome. I mean, it is very exciting because it's kind of the confluence of the anniversaries was a nice coincidence.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we also have Rhythm Encounter, which is RPG Fan's music podcast. We alternate weeks with Rhythm. We happen to have the 2 hosts of Rhythm Encounter here. I believe the last episode was a good old-fashioned hoedown, wasn't it?
Yep.
Don't make me yeehaw again.
It was Hoedown Showdown, and I was so close to calling it Throwdown? Showdown. Yeah. I forgot what I called it now, because we jokingly said that, but then it turned out to be an actual Hannah Montana song. So I called it the thing that isn't the Hannah Montana song. Anyway, it was farming. It was a lot of fun. It was,
as I understand it, was just a thinly veiled episode of Retro Encounter talking about Stardew Valley.
Not only Stardew, but there was a lot of it.
There was Harvest Moon in there too, and a Little Room Factory.
It was a really good episode. And some great music.
Yeah.
Do you want to give a tease of what we have maybe coming up next week? Well, not next week, because next week is going to be the 1st, but the 2nd of January then.
Yeah, I mean, anyone who listens to all the shows is actually hearing it here first, because we decided to add a new episode into the mix coming up next. So right now we're calling it Dedications or something like that. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a small little episode, and I'm actually going to let Hilary talk about it because it was her idea.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, even if it's posting a little bit into the new year, I figured it would be kind of a cute end of year / New Year's tradition to get songs from the staff and have them offer kind of dedications. And Mike and I would basically DJ and read the dedications. So it should be very, very warm and fuzzy, a very interesting mix of music.
Yeah.
And a good way to start the new year.
My thought is like comparing it to like, an old like radio station where people call in and do dedications.
Yeah.
Except they still do that. So it's not really that old of a concept.
Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Yes, exactly.
I believe one of our blurbs starts with that.
Does it really? Okay. Beautiful.
I mean, that'd be a good title of the episode,
dang,
actually.
Yeah, it would.
Okay. Maybe we'll do that.
Well, that's Rhythm Encounter. If you'd like to get in contact with us here at Random Encounter, you can fire us off a message to podcast@rpgfan.com. Would absolutely love to hear from you if you have any ideas for future episode themes, or we didn't do discussion questions today because we ran really long because it's a big year-end episode. Anything else you'd like to share with us, please fire me off a message there. If you'd like to send me an email personally, you can do so at jlogan@rpgfan.com. You can also find me on Mastodon at jonologan@mastodon.social. I'm not the only person on this podcast with a online presence. Zach, where can we find you online?
You can find me by email, zachw@rpgfan.com, or you can find me on RPGFan's Discord at zachw.
And Josh?
You can follow me on Threads and Instagram. I'm Watcher Joshua.
Cool. And Hilary?
Best way to reach me is hilary@rpgfan.com.
Cool. And Mike?
Mike at rpgfan.com.
Cool. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your friends. Help us get the word out there. You can rate us on iTunes or your other podcast player of choice. Honestly, 2024 is on the way. New year. If you would like to share everything we do with somebody, that would be, honest to God, very useful to us. We would love that. So I would like to thank everyone for joining us this evening. I would like to thank everyone on this podcast for joining me for this very, very long episode to talk about games that we are super excited about in 2024.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, thanks for having us. I haven't been on Random in a little while, so it was a lot of fun.
Same here. It's so good to be back and chatting with all of you, and it's an exciting year ahead, so I'm looking forward to it.
It is. Hashtag Metroid Prime 4.
Metroid Prime
Hashtag Silk
4.
Song. Hashtag
Hashtag
82. Hollow Knight 2.
The year could go on and on and on, and frankly, so could we. So I better cut this off now. To everyone out there, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful new year. And whatever you're playing over this holiday season, have fun.